Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever MoteCon. My name's John, and over the next 2 days, it is my pleasure to be introducing you to a brilliant lineup of educators that I just know are going to be super inspiring, and I can't wait to get going. Mote's launch, as I'm sure many of you know, was less than 2 years ago. Now, who better to talk us through some of that journey and also looking into the future than Mote's CEO and co-founder, Will Jackson. Will, hello and welcome to MoteCon.
Hello, John, and thanks very much.
Of course. So I know that it's been months in the making, and the day is finally here. So how are you feeling as the CEO of Mote?
Well, honestly, I couldn't be prouder. I think we've been on a journey. We'll talk a bit about that today. But this feels like a really important moment. We've got people dialing in from around the world. Welcome, everyone. I saw someone in Argentina and over on the west coast of the US and folks in Europe and the Middle East. So welcome, everyone. And if you're dialing in on demand, we've got some great lineup. I'm super excited about all the sessions. I just think this is an extraordinary achievement, and I'm very grateful to you, John, for putting all the work in and putting it together into our amazing lineup of presenters. So thanks for having me to kick things off today. And I look forward to interaction. And also, if there are any questions or comments, and I'd love to have some time, if we can, to address those as well.
Perfect. Thank you ever so much. I think that's a really good point. If anyone has any questions at all, if you drop them into the chat, we'll do our best to answer those either during the session or more likely at the end. And just to remind everyone, we have a lineup which is running 30-minute workshops and sessions back to back. So we've got 6 running today and 6 running tomorrow, so Friday and the Saturday. You can see the full agenda on both our website and also just in the comments below the YouTube stream today. But without any further ado, I'm going to share your slide deck to the stream, and I'm going to go ahead and leave you to it. Thank you, Will.
Well, thanks very much, John. So, yeah, today I'd love to talk a little bit about the journey we've been on, and I think where we are on this journey to make voice messaging faster and more useful for busy people everywhere. And the story began less than 2 years ago, as John said, in around November 2019. My co-founder Alex and I were working on another startup, and we were working in voice technology. We were seeing how powerful voice content was, and it got us thinking about how could we bring the power of that voice content into the workplace, into productivity, into the apps that we were using, because we were working as a remote team. And so we were thinking, wouldn't it be awesome if we could collaborate and other teams could collaborate using voice in a way that didn't seem to be possible at the time. So we iterated on those ideas, we talked to some friends, and we got confidence to just go ahead and build it. So we sat down and we worked very hard. Alex did all the hard bits of coding, I did the easy bits. And we built the website, we built the brand, we built the first version of our product, and we launched it in March 2020. And almost immediately, a few things happened. Well, first off, a lot of things were happening in the world in March 2020, as you all know. We were all going through some pretty extraordinary times. And so it was quite a scary time, I'll be honest, to launch a new product, launch a new company. But what was amazing was within just a few days of launch, we started to see small groups of users around the world, some in Australia, some in California, and in other places. And when we inquired and we found out who they were and what they were doing, it turned out that most of them were teachers, which we found very, very interesting. And they were saying, this is such an important tool. This is so valuable. And they were sharing it with their friends. And they kept saying, here's what we need. Here's what we need. And so that really gave us the impetus that we needed to focus on solving these problems for teachers. And that really is the journey we've been on over the last 18 months or so, and that we've grown by listening to you, the Mote community. And I just wanted to take a moment to talk through some of the key milestones here and how input and ideas from our community has really shaped the company that we built today, and obviously the future that we hope to build going forward. So it all started off with Mote, the Chrome extension V1, back in March 2020. It just supported comments in Google Docs and Slides and then Sheets. And then pretty soon we had teachers asking us, hey, can you make it work in Google Classroom? And we thought that seems like a good idea. And we launched it in Google Classroom. I always remember we launched it, I think, on a Tuesday morning. And by Thursday, Google Classroom was the majority of all the usage on Mote. And then we kept on adding more and more functionality, and it just kept growing and growing, which was fantastic. So we could see we were solving a big and important problem for teachers around the world. So it seemed really important that we get to make sure we were addressing all of the needs of teachers and schools and students. So that's why we invested in COPPA and FERPA compliance here in the US, as well as GDPR compliance a little later for the UK and Europe, and other compliance requirements around the world. So that's a super important part of focusing on serving schools and students and educators. In order to make sure we were having a really great conversation with our users, we also launched a Facebook group in July of 2020. We've now got, I think, 1,300 or so users, and it's a great source of ideas and interaction and community. So I love asking questions and engaging with that group. So if you're not already a member, please do sign up and join and contribute. We launched our paid version of the Mote in late July last year. And, to our surprise and delight, we started to see schools and districts around the world inquire and become Mote customers, as well as individual users. And we wanted to make sure we were offering great value and great features for those users. So we added more premium features. We added the Mote book, so you could save and reuse your Motes. We added translations so that you could, if you were a teacher with students who had different languages, you could translate. Super. We got a lot of great feedback on that. And then we added STEM mode for science and math teachers, so that we could understand and render chemical equations and math and so on. So lots of fundamental innovation around how voice was used in giving feedback. We then launched a product we call the MotePad, which you probably have used. It's recording Motes on any website. So that was a sort of innovation. But the single biggest launch, I will say, came in January of this year when we added our integration with Google Slides. And I will say that has now gone on to be about 1/3 of all of the Motes created are with Google Slides, because so many teachers have found so many creative and innovative ways of bringing audio, bringing voice into their presentation. So I love seeing all that creativity, and long may it prosper. We added a Gmail integration, and we added a Google Forms integration in April. And then we became officially a Google for Education partner, which is a big deal. And we've been really grateful to Google for all the support they've given us. And we look forward to continuing our partnership there. We've been localizing Mote into more and more languages. So if you are, if you're working in a Chinese community, or if you're in Spanish or Italian and several other languages, and it's growing by the week, we now can localize the app so that the whole experience is in that local language. And we've added pause, but I'm really excited that in the last few weeks, we have launched a very significant change to our product. We've added an iOS application. And I want to spend a few minutes talking about that and telling you a little bit about it. So the iOS app it works with iPhones, it works with iPads, and it has two major parts. It has the app itself, where you can record your Motes, and it also has a keyboard. And the keyboard allows you to use Mote inside any other app. So it could be within Google Docs, or it could be within Google Classroom. Now, who better to bring on stage with me right now than my colleague and friend, Greg Kulowiec, who has just written some awesome content and created some great videos to illustrate how educators can use Mote for iOS. So without further ado, Greg, welcome on board. Welcome onto the stage.
Well, welcome. Also, everyone, thank you for joining us. Thanks for doing the awesome kickoff to our first ever inaugural MoteCon. Thanks to John for getting all this organized. So I think what we'd like to do is do like a live demonstration of that iOS app and show people the capacity of the tool. Like, I'm super excited about it because I think it presents a really helpful use case for teachers that are on the go, teaching in a school or a classroom where the mobile device is their primary device. But even educators that have an iPhone as their own personal device, and the ease at which you could now open up a student's assignment in Google Classroom and leave them like a really targeted, really thoughtful kind of audio comment, open up a student's Google document or Google Slides, and as opposed to typing a comment in that comment section, you can now, using the Mote keyboard, like you mentioned, just simply record your voice and it drops right into that file. And we'll talk more later today in MoteCon about, leaving really high quality feedback. But this is just such an awesome entry point for teachers to do that. So with all of that being said, are we ready for the live demo? And we're going to
go there. Let's do it. Let's do it.
So what I'll demo now is jumping into a Google document, for example. So I have a Google Doc queued up right here. Let me just get into editing mode. So here we are in editing mode. I'm logged into this document. Now, like Will had mentioned, we have the Mote keyboard that you have to just turn on in the settings of your iOS device. So for example, if a student had some writing here, so I'll just call this student text. And if I wanted to give them some feedback on this work, I'm going to select their work and then add a comment like I normally would. And there's my comment section. But now instead of typing my comment, I'm going to tap on the globe icon in the bottom left-hand corner. And that allows me to access the Mote keyboard that I've already given permissions on my device. I'll tap on the Mote icon to record, and you automatically get redirected to the Mote app. Now I can begin my voice recording and leave some really thoughtful comments for the student. And the beauty of this is there's tone and they can hear my voice, and I can create way more feedback than I normally would. And as soon as I tap on that M, it's going to stop the recording. And then I love the kind of experience here for the end user where it's saying, hey, your Mote is done. Just go back to the previous app that you were in. And so our Mote character is saying, head back over to Google Docs. And when I head back, there's the link to my audio, and I simply send that through, and now my audio has been added. So that's how we can do it right inside of the body, a comment section. What we can also do is I can do it right here in the body of the document if I don't want a student to have to open up the comments. So I'll do the same thing. My cursor is blinking. I'd like to add some audio right into the document. Again, go to the keyboard, toggle to the Mote keyboard, record, an automatic redirect to the app. And now we get to talk and explain and go into depth. And we can say so much in 90 seconds. And I'll stop that recording. And then we'll get the redirect back to the Google Doc. And there you have it. There's the link to my audio. And I'll just confirm that. And that's in the document. It's that easy to on the go on your phone. And I think about just like the ease of the process for the end user or the teacher, how easy it is to do that now. Will, thoughts or ideas about that whole process you'd like to share with folks?
No, it's a great demo. I mean, what we've really tried to do, Greg, as you can see, is bring some of the familiar elements of the Mote experience from the desktop, right, from what works in a mobile, in a desktop browser, in Chrome browser, and try to replicate the key elements of that in mobile. Now, you probably noticed some of those things aren't going to be quite the same as they are on desktop. For example, we can't render those links like you showed. So you'll see that as a link, right, rather than on a mobile device than actually as a playable card. As you know, whether it be in a comment or it be in the main body of the document on a Google Doc, you can actually click and play that if you've got the Mote extension installed. Now, assuming that your student is going to access that content on a desktop device in a Chrome browser, they'll see it and it will work just the same as if you'd recorded it from the desktop. So the mobile device as a consumption experience isn't quite the same, but assuming that the recipient is getting it on the desktop, it's just the same for them. And so, what we're really interested in, like I said, we took the existing Mote behavior. We said, okay, we know lots of teachers are using iPads. We know some teachers are like busy and want to still review student work and do it on their iPhones. How can we bring the same elements of the experience? Well, that's all well and good. What I would love to know from you and from this audience and our whole community is, what else do you want? What else would you like to do with Mote on a mobile device, on a tablet that you can't do today? And Android users, I will say, I promise we will get around to you. It's so easier for us to focus on one platform at a time. So we want to work on improving this iOS experience, and when we feel like we've got a great product, we will be rolling that out to Android as well. I mean, so maybe to come back to that, Greg, what are your thoughts? I mean, what else would you love to see? Maybe it's too soon, but have you had any ideas? Got any thoughts?
I mean, like, I've always viewed it as like I can leave audio, I can leave a really thoughtful comment for someone, and then they can see it, and then they can reply, and it can happen in a separate environment. I would love to see like a back and forth inside of that app environment, so you and I can have an asynchronous audio discussion, or a teacher and 10 students can have an asynchronous audio discussion. A bit of editing is always helpful, but I know maybe that's taken on quite a monster. What we do have as well, if that whole process and that walkthrough and that live demo was a little bit too fast, we have a really helpful playlist on the Mote YouTube channel that's just Mote for iOS, and it walks through how to install and approve the keyboard, and then how to use it across a number of environments as well.
That's awesome, and I think we'll share that link in the comments. Have we had any comments from the audience, John? I'm seeing here.
Hi, both.
Hey, John.
We've had lots of comments and lots of people really pleased to be joining us from all over the world, from every corner. Lots of very favourable feedback, lots of wonderful compliments on how Mote has really supported not only the teachers, but I think the important thing as well is how we're looking to support the kind of whole school community. So how we're, really particularly now looking to empower students. I know we've got a great session with Sue Tranchina coming up later, but also looking at ways that we can help the wider school community. So perhaps how Voice might be able to help with those families at home as well. But in terms of questions, you've actually hit the main question there, Will, which was is there going to be an app for the Android users in our community? So there is going to be one coming. There were lots of people that are very reassured to hear that. And I think it's important to say as well, I know that Greg made that comment there so there is a playlist which has been shared straight into the chat there, but we also have over on learn.mote.com we have our learning hub that isn't only providing resources and templates of how to use the mobile app, but also how you can think of different ways and different ideas, again from largely by educators, different ways that Mote can be used to do some really creative things with your students. And big shout out to Greg for coming up with some unbelievably creative ideas, but also to our team of wonderful ambassadors that have really worked hard to share some resources that are ready to go for the classroom. So I'll be sure to share that link right now.
I will say, and I don't know if we have educators here who are sort of back at school already and are starting to use Mote, and maybe you've started to see some of your students replying to your messages. And this is not something we've talked about a huge amount, but it's been quite interesting to see the level of adoption. So now what we have is students. So what we found is that many of the, often say you're leaving comments on a student's Google Classroom or a Google Doc, and the student will be receiving a notification in email. And they'll receive that notification, perhaps they're on their mobile device, and they don't have access to the Google Classroom on that device, but they want to hear that they want to understand your feedback. Well, they'll click on that link and it would have taken them to the Mote website, right? So we have these landing pages, and they will have heard your feedback. And we think, well, that's great. And you'll have probably received a notification that says, "Oh, your student has listened to your feedback." Well, we thought that was great. But what we wanted to do is also enable students to respond. And so what we've seen in the last few weeks is it's been very popular, increasingly popular with students to actually use Mote to reply to and either thank or in some way engage with the feedback that's been received. It's actually very quickly become the most popular way for students to use Mote. And the cool thing is that they can do it on any device and in any browser, right? So this is recording on any device, any browser. And over time, we want to bring that same web recorder to other use cases. So we decided to focus initially on this reply experience because we saw, we knew that we had a lot of students who would want to do this. So watch this space, but there are other ways that we're going to bring more interactivity to more devices.
That's great, Will. And I think that one of the really exciting things about working at Mote is that because we're a relatively small team, that we often launch things in a state where we are really appreciative of hearing from the community, of hearing feedback and like learning from you. So if you have any ideas at all, please don't feel that you're restricted to just commenting on this particular video. Send us a note, reach out to us across our socials, and we're always really happy to hear. We'd love to jump on a call as well with you. I'm actually just going to now. I know Greg's got. We spoke about some of the ideas that Greg has shared. He's also been getting to work on creating 5 ideas for back to school. So I'm going to go ahead and share that screen. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, John. So on the Mote blog and the Learning Hub, recognizing that so many teachers are heading back to school and they're maybe looking for new innovative ways to kind of redesign projects and student experiences, I've been sharing some ideas on ways that you can integrate Mote and integrate audio into student work. So John, if you wouldn't mind sharing the Learn page in the chat, that would be fantastic. But there's 3 posts now, and I'll be coming with more, but one in particular here is 5 back to school student projects with Mote. So I'm really highlighting like different ways to think about using Mote in really creative ways. Like we kind of hang our hat on feedback and quality discussions, but you can do some really fun stuff as well, like have kids create micro podcasts. And all of the resources on these back to school blog posts have video tutorials that guide you through the process, as well as templates that you can simply click to make a copy of. So if this is something you've always wanted to do and didn't quite know how to pull it off, you can explore that with all of our resources. You can make narrated stop motion video with Google Slides and Mote. If students wanted to create virtual audio tours by kind of embedding their voice on any location on the web, a Google Earth location, a 360 image. As a history teacher, I'm super fond of having my students create timelines in the past. But now using Google Sheets with Mote, you can create audio timelines or even do some fun non-linear storytelling where in Google Slides, it's almost as if you can have the end user, the listener of that story, click to pick where they'd like to go next, but all that can be narrated by the student using the Mote Chrome extension and Mote inside of Google Slides. Also, if you're an existing user, we have kind of like back to school skills. So like John and Will have mentioned, we're always like so receptive to teacher feedback and what the users are telling us they need. So there's always new features that are rolling out. So if you're looking to see like, hey, what are some new things I might not be aware of, or some things I might want to brush up my skills on using Mote, we have 5 back to school skills and then 5 more back to school skills with Mote. And it's using sticky Motes or using the iOS app with the embedded video walkthroughs or integrating Mote in Google Classroom if you've never done that before, using audio cards in Google Docs to embed audio and have it play right back there. So tons of resources for you. Just head over to the Mote blog, and then I have plenty more ideas that we'll be sharing as school is kind of kicking off across the United States.
And that's true. And I will say, if I may, John, because we are very aware of this. So
yes.
We know we have Southern Hemisphere community members joining us now and also on demand. And I think sometimes we do want to point out when we talk about back to school, I guess it's a relative thing. We know folks are at different stages of the academic year, so everybody's welcome. But wherever you are in your academic journey, I hope this is useful. There were just a couple of comments, if I may, here. There was one from, I believe, Lakeisha Powell asked about making Mote a smart chip in a Google Doc. Now, like you guys, perhaps only in the last week or so have I been sort of aware of Google having these things called smart chips. It looks pretty cool, and I think it's like a really interesting layer of interactivity in Google Docs. I don't believe Google has made those available to third-party developers yet, but I'm going to take an action to follow up with our friends at Google and find out if they have a timeline or any more information. So great question. Thank you for that. Tom Mullaney asked a question, John, about students being able to hear Mote comments in the Google Doc app on an iPad instead of being bounced to the Mote app. We would love that too. And I promise you, if we could think of a way of making that work, I promise you we would. The challenge, one of the awesome things, I mean, like, we built our first product as a Chrome extension just because Chrome extensions are really powerful ways of integrating certain types of technology into other products, right? So when you use the Chrome extension, you're actually bringing elements of our code into that product. Unfortunately, in mobile, there isn't quite the same framework for us to provide that experience. So we can't easily make it so that you can play audio. So the best effort we've got is this keyboard experience, right, which allows you to record and create content. But right now we don't have an equivalent. So yeah, I would love nothing more than, if you have any ideas, if you can think of a brilliant way around it, I'd love to hear it. But yeah, that's the limitation we have in mobile.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, we are at 25 minutes past the hour. I know that we've got another brilliant session coming up in just 5 minutes, where we're going to be looking to add emotion to digital storytelling. So really excited for that. I don't think there are any more questions coming into the chat here. So I'll just say on behalf of everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Will, for taking us on a whistle-stop tour of the last couple of years, and for Greg, as always, for sharing some wonderful ideas on both the mobile app and also just not necessarily, as Will was saying, back to school, but just ideas that you can take back to school with you, whether that's starting a new year or whether that's starting a new week. We're always really excited to hear from the community. Please join us. Dropped it into the chat earlier over on Facebook. We've got our Mote Teachers group there. But we'd also love to hear from you through whichever means is best for you. So thank you, Will. Thank you, Greg. Anything to add?
No, honestly, look, I really hope this has been of some interest. I promise you, I am the amuse-bouche to the main course, to the delectable entrees on their way. There's some incredible content, so please do stick around, or please make sure to bookmark the playlist and check out all of the awesome content that's coming. I think there's some great ideas. And again, thank you all for being members of the Mote community. We really couldn't have done any of this without your input. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Will, and thank you, Greg. So we'll leave everyone to have a drink, to grab a coffee, grab some tea, and we will see you at 1:30. So that will just be in a couple of minutes. Well, we'll be joined by one of our Mote ambassadors. So until then, thank you, everyone, and see you soon. Hello again. So we are ready for session number 2. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of this person's bio. So we're really privileged to be joined by an educator from Halifax in Nova Scotia in Canada. He's been teaching in the Halifax Regional Training Centre for 20 years now. In the last 8 years, he's been working out of the district central office as a tech integration specialist. His current role is to support schools with integration of technology to support student learning, and he also enjoys spending time with his 3 school-age children. And I know also that he is a proud Mote ambassador. It is my pleasure to welcome onto the stage Mario Eleftheros. Hello, Mario. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here, and look forward to connecting. I see lots of some familiar faces in the chats going on, and some new names in there. So I look forward to connecting with some new people and some new Mote users as well.
Awesome, Mario. So I know that you've got a action-packed presentation lined up for us. So if you cue that up onto your screen,
Sure
and I will
thing.
go ahead and I'll push that live onto our stream here. And what I'll do, Mario, is once it's been shared, I will leave it to you and all of your wonderful expertise. And I'll be sharing comments, and I'll be joining you when it's finished as well, just to kind of wrap up with any questions. But
Perfect.
it is over to you. So,
All right.
Mario, thank you.
Great. Well, it's great to be here. I want to thank everybody on the Mote team for allowing me to come and present today, and thank you to all of you who are here today during the session. So as mentioned, my name is Mario. I'm a Mote ambassador, and at the same time in my day job, and I know everybody is from all around the world, we actually don't start school, our students don't start school till September the 7th. We go in September the 2nd for a couple days before school starts. So we're still in summer mode here. But I know some of you are jumping in and you're already into school, and some of you are starting very soon. So hopefully, as we talk today about integrating Mote with digital storytelling through Google Slides, be some ways you can see it being used in your classroom. Of course, feel free to use the MoteCon hashtag, share your learning. You can tweet at me as well. I'm on Twitter at @MarGreek. I'd love to hear from you, things that you're doing as well in your classroom, things you're learning about today and tomorrow as well. Love to learn from you as well. And so as mentioned, feel free to comment and post questions in the chat. As they say, the smartest person in the room is the room. So anything that I'm sharing with you is really ways that I do things. Doesn't mean it's always the best and easiest way. So if you have any tips or tricks that you want to share, or just questions in general, feel free to add those into the chat, and we'll get to those. So as mentioned, I am a technology integration leader with the Halifax Regional Center for Education. That name could vary. There's technology learning specialists. So essentially my role is to support schools and teachers with integrating technology. So over the last year plus, Mote has been really something that's gaining a lot of steam and traction in our schools, especially the last, as with most cases, where in the last year and a half or so, 2 years, we've been really shifting. We've been in person and at home learning. We've kind of had bounce backs, and even last year we kind of flip-flopped between the two. So Mote was really a great game changer in terms of supporting students with at home learning and students using Mote to support their learning. I also teach part-time at one of our local universities, and as mentioned, I do have 3 school-age kids. It's raining here today. Actually just stopped raining, so my kids have been locked up inside most of the day because of the rain. It was pouring rain actually, so hopefully they don't come jumping in during the session, but you know what happens with 3 young kids and being home all day. So hopefully things go smooth. But with at-home learning, I'm sure some of you have children, pets, different things that popped in during your session. So I'm going to talk a little bit about digital storytelling. And we are going to focus a little bit on stop motion with Google Slides. As Greg mentioned in the intro session there, I was glad to see as one of those sort of activities you can learn, grab from the Mote Learning Hub, that this is really one of my, I want to say go-to. It's one of the ones that really can connect across all curriculum types, all types of grade levels with, you might have modifications depending if you have younger learners or not, or older learners. But it is a great tool to use to tell digital stories, and we'll kind of talk about that. So really digital storytelling is, using multimedia to tell stories, bring narratives to life. And there are tons and tons and tons of tools out there. So whether you're, you know, using Google and Chromebooks, or whether using iPads and different apps, there's lots of different ways you can tell stories through digital storytelling. So there is no really one way. You know tools that work best for you. So with anything, really, it's about the task versus the tools. So depending on what it is, the task you want your students to do, you might have other tools that work well with that. But Google Slides is one that I like to use. Where we come from in our province, Nova Scotia, we are a Google province. So all our students have Google accounts. So this is really where we see a lot of use with it. So with digital storytelling, combination of using images, video, text, audio, that could be sounds, music, you know, students inputting their own voice, and that's where Mote really comes in. We'll talk a little bit about that. And it could be all those, could be parts of those, any kind of combination, and we'll kind of look at ways that we can use Google Slides for that. So it is a great way for students to showcase their writing skills, use their creativity, enhance their digital skills. So really touches along those 6 C's of, you know, around communication, collaboration, creativity, all those sort of areas there. So because, like I said, it is cross-curricular, it can be used in a lot of different ways. There is no really one way of doing it, and it just allows students a means to express themselves. So you might have students that aren't always the ones to raise their hand, to get up front of the class, to present. So sometimes just kind of using digital storytelling as a way that they can kind of showcase their skills, tell a story, and express themselves, and not always be sort of up in front of the class. So Google Slides is where we're going to kind of talk about with stop motion animation. So I kind of consider Google Slides to kind of be like the Swiss Army knife of Google tools. You know, I know when I started first using Google Apps, I really use it like I'm using right now as a presentation tool, having some content, sharing some information, and presenting that information. So that is certainly one of the more popular ways to use it, but Google Slides has so many uses. And throughout this MoteCon, I know just looking at the schedule, there are other sessions going on which talk about how Google Slides, different ways you can use Mote with Google Slides, and so you'll kind of see some other uses. I am going to focus on the stop motion animation piece, but I use it in a lot of different ways as well, using Mote and Google Slides. So one thing I do like, so with digital storytelling and stop motion animation in particular, you might have done it yourself, or your students were stop motion, where maybe you use Lego or like clay figures and claymation, where you move it a little bit, you take a picture, you move it the character a little bit again, take another picture, and you kind of play all those pictures together, and it looks like the character's moving. So that's certain there, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't have access to that, you don't have access to extra cameras or you know, Lego or claymation or whatever the sort of characters you want to use, this where Google Slides really can be a good fit there, where you just really need a device. You don't need any extra equipment. Now, that being said, it does limit things a little bit. So with like claymation or Lego, you can move your characters in certain ways where in Google Slides you wouldn't be able to move them in the exact same way. And we'll kind of take a look at that. But I do like that, where if, depending on what you have access to, Google Slides kind of allows you just to kind of really, if you have access to a Google account and a device, you can really get started with stop motion animation. And it is a cross-platform tool. It is not, you know, strictly tied to Chromebooks. Depending on your device, obviously it'll be easier on some devices over others, but it is, you know, kind of a cross-platform tool. And as mentioned as well, stories can be sort of linear, where it's just progressing from one slide to the next, where it's kind of just playing through all the Google Slides, or you can kind of have some choice in kind of in that choose your own adventure, which was mentioned in the intro session there, where, you know, you could kind of, I have students that once they kind of get the grasp of how to use Google Slides for stop motion animation, then they can start really plotting their stories to kind of have some choose your own adventure. So they get to a certain point and maybe the character has to make a decision where they do one thing or another. And based on that, you can have the slide jump to a different slide. We obviously won't have time to get into that there today, but it is something that you can kind of move and progress your students to. And really, for me, Mote has really been the game changer in all this. Previously, a lot of the stop motion was characters moving and some more text-based using Google Slides. I started getting into audio pre-Mote, but that really required me to get to another app, which was outside of Google Slides, record that, or students recording themselves. But then depending on the app, they had to upload it to their Google Drive. Then in their Google Drive, they had to ensure that the share settings were opened up so that anyone could hear the audio note, and then they had to insert that audio note into their Google slide. So it was a few steps, and now where Mote comes in, it was really just seamless, where you can just kind of one click of a button once you're sort of logged in and have Mote added as your Chrome extension, and students can record and pop it right into their Google slide. And we'll kind of take a look at that. So it really made things easier for me and my students, and really took things to a different level. It wasn't so much time being spent on these little troubleshooting things. Once they learned how to kind of install Mote, get it in there, hit that button, record, it kind of really took off with their stories. So like I said, it's easy to add notes to Google's slides. Great UDL approach to learning. So sometimes even from my end, I use Mote to kind of drop in audio notes to explain things where, I might be explaining in class sometimes with students, but at the same time, just a little audio note that sort of, goes with the text space of, instructions, things like that, so they can kind of hear my instructions as well after the fact when it's sort of presented originally to them. And it, like I said, allows students to add voice and tell a story with or without text. So you might have students that just have some difficulty with writing, or maybe there's younger learners that haven't really learned, letter recognition. So sometimes just being able to insert their voice into it, kind of, until they're more comfortable or ready to start writing with text, it just sort of adds that. So in this slide deck, which I will share out, just a quick little video, and again, there's lots of videos on the Mote Learning Hub as well about using Mote and Google Slides. Oops, I didn't mean to play the video. All right, so just a few tips about stop motion animation before we kind of jump in here. So with Google Slides, you kind of have to put your background in and insert sort of a character. But that character you use, you need for that character to have a transparent background. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a sec here. So really there's lots of different ways you can kind of find transparent images using PNG in your search. So if I was looking for a dog and I didn't want them to have like a background already in there, if I search like dog space and the letters PNG, you'll find some images where you'll have dogs, which is sort of clear or transparent backgrounds, or you can search in Google for transparent, whatever it is you're searching for with transparent backgrounds. Alternatively, I do use a great site linked here, and some of you may use this, and there's other sites that do this as well, but this is the one I kind of go to, called remove.bg, and it just means background. So you can upload any image and remove the background from it. And you might be aware of other websites or apps that do the same thing, but this one's just web-based, so it's really, and you don't need an account to use it. You can have an account which lets you kind of save images that you've done, but it can be just sort of, you just need an image for one-time use. You can, and I just like having my students be able to go there, go to the website and do it. And you can kind of drag and drop images into it. You can even edit and do different things as well. But along with that, teaching and respecting copyright. So, not just sending students to plop and grab images off the internet, but ones that are for fair use and available for use, or with modifications, whatever it might be. So just teaching that digital citizenship piece. And the one big key that I harp on a lot and repeat a lot, and the students get tired of me saying it, is Control+D. So that means you can duplicate a slide, and I'll show you why that's going to be important. And they will use that a lot. So one thing you will find if you're doing stop motion with Google Slides is you could, for a really a story that, for just like 5 seconds of a character moving, it could take like 20 or 30 slides for that to happen. Kind of depends how quickly they're moving on the scene or what they're doing in the story. So I kind of, as students kind of develop that, they'll certainly find that, some of these stories could be hundreds of slides long, okay? Depending on if there's secondary characters coming in, whatever else is happening. So, but you can also start small, so it's easily adaptable. So sometimes you might find that younger learners they're not familiar with Google Slides. So sometimes I just have a template already done, and I just get them to kind of maybe do a quick audio note with Mote. What would this character say, or what do they see, or whatever it might be. So you can kind of do digital storytelling. It doesn't necessarily have to be hundreds of slides. It could be a slide. And so you have a character, maybe they're saying something, they're putting an audio note in. So there's lots of different ways you can adapt it. So sometimes I do with like a little template for students, depending on where they're at in their learning, or a starter slide. And I kind of maybe get the first 1 or 2 slides for them, and they kind of take the story and go from there. I've also linked in here just some other ideas from Ditch That Textbook. And again, you might have your own ideas as well around stop motion Google Slides, but these are just sort of some great kind of starter tips if you are going to do it with your students. So we do have a bit of at least 5 minutes here. I do want to kind of show you what that looks like and how bringing in Mote to record the audio notes and adding voice to these stop motion animation stories is how it can be done. So I'm just going to pop off this one and go over to this one here.
Mario, can I just say that you've actually got about 10 minutes, so
okay, perfect. All right,
you're doing wonderfully well. So I just wanted to jump in there in case you felt like you had to rush through. So I'll jump back out now, but thanks so much.
Perfect. All right, thank you. All right, so this here, I just kind of got this going here just for time's sake, but I will just show you. So for stop motion with Google Slides, you just really got to start with a blank Google slide. So this is where what I bring the students to get started. And, usually I don't just jump in. It kind of depends, I guess, the students that I'm working with. Sometimes, there might be times where we're just going to kind of learn how to do it first before we kind of get to that, what is it, the story they're going to create. But often I do get them to sort of storyboard what is the story they want to tell. So maybe we've studied a novel in class and we're going to recreate a scene, or maybe they're going to provide an alternative ending to something that we've seen, or maybe we've studied something in science and they're going to a theory or whatever it might be, and they're going to represent it through a stop motion. So I just kind of want to show you here. So really all I've done here is I've clicked here in my Google slide and in terms of a background, and I've gone through and found a background. Okay, so I kind of just save that step of me searching through backgrounds, but really you're just adding a background to your scene. Okay, and then with that, I added this dog character who's on the beach. Okay, and so with that, again, I just kind of went into my Google slide. I went to insert. Now, I found it through Google because I did sort of a search of an image that I could find, but just to kind of show you for time's sake, you can kind of go through insert image and search the web. And I had mentioned that earlier, that one way to search for images, if you wanted to have ones with no background, because if I search just simply a dog and I try to bring a dog into my scene, it's going to bring in the background of whatever picture that is. So these don't really match up. So that's why when I did a search, I did the search for PNG, or I could find an image that I am allowed to use and go through that remove BG. But now you see I get a lot more images with just plain backgrounds. And so by doing that, if you bring one of these images over, it takes the background of whatever it is that your scene is telling, whatever is happening here. So again, just for time's sake, I kind of just found a dog here. He's got a stick in his mouth. I don't know if you can see that. And really, so what the students need to do, or if you're doing this with your students, is that control plus the letter D. That's going to be the big key, because what's going to happen is you're going to be duplicating this slide several times and having your character move at the same time. So I'll show you what I mean here. So this is my first scene here. And again, just like with Google Slides, you have text boxes. Like I could put in some text right now, and I could, maybe it's a little narration, or it's setting the story up, once upon a time, whatever it might be. I could put some text in there, or I could also, and I'll show you about recording an audio note, which sort of gives that extra voice, adding that emotion to that to your story. So again, I'm just going to click on my slide. I'm going to hit Control plus the letter D, and now I get a second slide. So now I have two slides that look exactly the same. And what I need to do, and I might have forgot to mention this in my previous slide, using your arrow keys is kind of probably one of the easier ways to get your character to move. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on my dog. He's highlighted. I'm just going to kind of use the arrow keys and move him like 2 times. So I just kind of moved him to the left a little bit. And I'm going to keep repeating that step. So I'm going to hit Control. I'm going to click on my last slide, hit Control plus the letter D, click on my character, move him over a little bit. And then I'm going to keep repeating. So students get really tired of me saying this. Go to your last slide, click Control D, click on your character, move it over a little bit. Click on your last slide, hit Control D, click on your character, move it over a little bit. So you kind of get the point of what I'm saying. So I just have 5 slides. So essentially what happens is, if I were to start my stop motion animation story, it's really just my dog starting to move across the scene. Okay, so in those 5 slides, he moved over, I don't know what the length that is, but he started moving over a little bit. So that's the sort of the way you kind of get started with the stop motion animation. But like I said, I could start bringing in a secondary character. I could have, different things, add text. But this is where really things sort of changed for me over the past year or so, is where Mote kind of came in with integration of Google Slides. Because now I can add audio notes. So I could have my characters, instead of being text-based, because you might have students that aren't able to read what the text is there, or they might be telling stories in different languages, whatever it might be. So adding, having the ability to record the audio note is kind of really been, like I said, a game changer for me. So once you're sort of in your Google Slides, you've gone in and added the extension, logged into the account. So I can just click on my Mote icon, which is embedded right in my Google Slides. I get a prompt here to record my Mote, and I could record. So I'm a dog. I guess I could be saying something that a dog would say, or making dog noises, but essentially I'm just sort of rambling here right now. When I'm done, I can hit the check mark. I will kind of pop in here. I can play it back so I can hear, what is it that I said? Does it work for me? Or if I want to record, I could trash this and do it again. But I could just simply, once I recorded it, hit insert, and it's going to pop into my Google slide. But that's not quite all that's going to happen here. So you can do a couple things now. So this is where really you kind of have to decide how is it your story is going to kind of unfold and be told, because you'll notice with any audio note in Google Slides, you have some options here on the right. So as they go through my stop motion story, do I want them to, the dog to speak right away when they come to that slide? So I could have it that on the right here to automatically play. So all the user has to do is just kind of go through the slides, and then at some point the dog will speak. Okay. And again, you can move this icon, you can place it where you want, you could shrink it down if you want to, you don't have to have it as visible. Because really, as long as I have it to play automatic, I don't have to worry about the person or whoever is viewing my Google slide story to have to come in and press play if you set it up that way. So you can kind of decide how you want to do that, but it's really just like that. Once you have it installed, you can just click record or click the Mote icon. You have the button there, record, and away you go. And it inserts it right in there. So this is really really changed the way students tell their stories, because they can add voice. And in terms of students collaborating on stories, especially if you have like multiple characters on the go, you could have students be different characters, and it also gives roles to everybody as well. You might have somebody that maybe they're just not, they're a little bit reluctant to write, but maybe they're able to sort of dictate and tell their stories a little bit better than they would be able to writing. So you kind of can create different roles for students as well. So there's lots of great ways that it can be used in the classroom. So like I said, whether it is you're telling full stories with younger students, you're just sort of adding, getting to do sort of explaining things, whatever it might be, using Mote and Google Slides is really just, once you have it installed, just sort of that one click of a button, and there you go. So I'm just going to kind of come back here, as I know we're getting a little tight on time here. So we kind of looked at that. So I just kind of wanted to mention a few things, and some of these were mentioned as well. So again, feel free to reach out to me if you do have questions about Google Slides. Again, that was sort of a quick overview. As mentioned in the Mote Learning Hub, there is an example there of how you can use it and get started in your classroom. I also have some other Mote videos as well as my on a little YouTube channel that I've created. I use it a lot with teachers in my district to get them going. Love to hear from you, whether it's through email, on Twitter, if you do decide to use stop motion in your classroom and integrate Mote as well. Would love to hear how you're using that, or even sharing some of the stories students create. I love seeing the creations that students do. But other than that, I'll kind of just leave it open. If there are any questions, I know in about 6 minutes we do have another session coming up, and we'll kind of go from there.
Thank you so much, Mario. That was awesome. Thank you. I'm just going to remove your screen there, just sure, temporarily. But if you leave it up, just in case we need to pull it back there. Okay. So lots of very favourable oohs and ahs coming in. Both on the stop motion idea, using Mote for slides, which Will actually highlighted as well, was such a game changer. And you actually touched upon it, how it used to be that really long drawn out process of recording somewhere, downloading it, uploading it to Drive, and then finally being able to go to the insert audio. But I think that for me, it was really satisfying seeing just how quickly it was adopted and knowing how wonderfully creative teachers are all over the place, the brilliant ways that they're being used. Everything from having like school-wide newsletters to read-along activities, so some really creative ideas with things like using them for stop motion. I just want to say thank you because I've been using slides for ages and I didn't actually fully appreciate the ease with which you could just copy, you could duplicate a slide using Command D or Control D if you're on a Chromebook. So
yes, thank you to whoever posted that. I'm not a Mac user, and I always forget. I don't mean to neglect the Mac user out there. So I was glad somebody put in there the shortcut for that as well. Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, there were no specific questions. As I say, there was lots of people just very excited with what you were sharing. I think it's important to say that I did drop something in. So Mario is one of our Mote ambassadors. If you would like to be joining him in the next cohort, we're going to be running at the beginning of September. We're going to be launching that, and then we'll be welcoming a new 50 or so on board in October. And you access that through the community pages on the mote.com website. And you'll also see just at the bottom here that you are able to, for all of the sessions that you attend, you are able to access a certificate. So all that you need to do is just go to the link that's scrolling on the bottom just under where we're speaking now. Just go to bit.ly/MoteCon certificate. Certificate was short for cert was short for certificate, but actually I quite like bit.ly/Mote concert. Anyway, it is a bit of a Mote concert for the next couple of days. But yeah, Mario, as I say, there were no real questions there other than just lots and lots of compliments. One or two people have asked about having a template or some idea, so we can definitely make sure that's shared to the Learning Hub. But on behalf of everyone, just want to say a huge thank you for giving up your time. I know not only in the delivery itself, but in the preparation. So thank you so much, and hope that we see you sticking around the chat, Mario.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, John. Now, and enjoy the rest of the sessions, everybody.
Cheers. Thanks, Mario. So what we're going to do now, everyone, is we're going to take a couple of minutes break before we have kicking off at 3 o'clock Eastern. We've got something that I'm really looking forward to. We've got a feedback masterclass with Greg, who is a master of so much. So really, really keen and looking forward to that. So see everyone back here in just a couple of minutes. Thank you. Here we are then, session 3, just about to kick off at MoteCon 2021. The next speaker I'm super excited to be welcoming up. Someone that I've followed on socials for many years, shared passion for lots of things, EDU innovative, from AR to VR to lots of other really cool stuff. A source of inspiration for many. He's a Google certified trainer. He is the creator and godfather of app smashing, an Adobe master teacher, been an edtech trainer for more than a decade, and is also a celebrated conference keynote speaker. Of course, the person that I'm going to be bringing on now is Greg. Greg, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I always cringe when I hear anything Godfather or app smashing related. Like it's a super fun way to use mobile technology, but like thanks for having me, John. I'm super excited to kind of explore this idea of feedback with everyone today.
Yeah, and I think, yeah. Can I just this is something which I'm really excited to hear, because I know that you've spent so much time researching this, putting together all sorts, and I know we've had a helping hand from 1 or 2 people as well. So I'm sure that you'll mention them. But what I'll do, Greg, is I will share your screen, and I will just slip away into the background. But I will be here just to kind of with any questions or prompts. But otherwise, I'll see you at the end for a Q&A.
Great, Sean. So first, I want to say thank you to everyone who's taken the time out of their day to join us for the first ever MoteCon. Thank you to John for organizing this. I can't even imagine how much time and energy it takes to pull this off and pull off this super high quality virtual event. Hopefully you had a good time with Mario in the previous session, and then with Will in the kickoff. So like John said, my name is Greg Kulowiec. I'm actually a technology director at a district just north of Boston. It's Triton Regional Schools. And I'm also super fortunate to be on the Mote team as an education advocate based out of the United States, along with my colleague Sue at Mote. So what we're going to do with this session today at MoteCon is really just explore the idea of feedback and the importance of feedback and what high quality feedback looks like. I know when I was a former high school history teacher, and I don't think I ever kind of took the time to really explore and dig into the research and the kind of foundations of the importance of feedback and what high quality feedback really looks like. And now in my role with Mote, Mote kind of hangs its hat on being a really like a quality and effective feedback tool. And if we're using it in that way, and we're trying to, get students to understand how to improve their understanding, and I'll talk about this idea of like minimizing the gap between where they are and where we need to get them, we need to not just use the tool by recording our voice, but have intention behind recording our voice in a way to really kind of create powerful change in our students' work. So one thing I have to say is this is super ambitious to try to pull this off in a half hour or 20 minutes or so. One thing that we will share is live as of this morning on the Mote Learning Hub is basically this feedback masterclass. This 8-part series is live on the Mote Hub. It's broken up into 8 individual parts, and I'll show you this later. I'll screen share it, and I'm sure John will share the link in the chat. But all the ideas that we're going to explore today, I really had to condense it. We can't simply cover all 8 parts. What we do in that feedback masterclass, it's already live and archived on the Learning Hub for you, is really dig into each one of these 8 ideas. What we're going to do is kind of get a taste of a little bit of each one today. Now, before I get into the content, like John mentioned, I've had a ton of help from the Mote team digging into the research and pulling this together. John's been fantastic, but also our wonderful friends at Slides Mania have done a really outstanding job of taking the ideas that I've kind of curated and pulled together and then presented it in just this like beautiful slide deck. So a hat tip to Slides Mania and the awesome work they do over there. And I'm sure we can kind of reference them again later, John, as well. So why feedback? And some of the research from Hattie and others as well, but this one quote, I think, really sums it up. The simplest prescription for improving education must be dollops of feedback. We can implement one-to-one programs. We can integrate technology. We can have new kind of initiatives and curriculum programs. But the research even points to the fact that if educators can understand and develop the capacity to leave high quality feedback, that's the kind of the biggest impact we can have on students in schools. And if we push forward a bit, what is feedback? It provides cues that can capture the student's attention and help them focus on succeeding with that task. The thing about high quality feedback, though, is it's not always task driven or task related. Sometimes it might be on that kind of individual level or targeted at the learner itself, like the person, the characteristics of the learner. What we really want to shift to is this idea of process. How can we provide feedback that's going to help the student understand how to navigate the process, not just how to accomplish and complete that individual task, but what are the steps they need to do to get there? How can they become self-regulated learners? So that's really what we're going to be working towards as we work through this kind of like mini masterclass today. But I think if we're really going to make an argument for why feedback to set a foundation for everything that we're talking about, it's really this analogy of shortening the gap, right? So if the student is here and the task and the challenge and what we want them to know, understand is here, the whole purpose of our feedback is to bring them closer and minimize that. So shorten the gap between what they know now and the work they've done and what they need to know or what the work needs to look like, where the work needs to be. And I was guilty of myself of providing feedback that was corrective in manner, that was really specific to a targeted tiny incident skill or fact or idea. And that's all critical. Like we have to do that as well. But if we really go for more of like a global view of what are we trying to accomplish when we're providing feedback for students, and this is what we're really trying to do. And also, and then we're going to kind of, as we get later into the session, is think, how does Mote integrate with this way of thinking? How can we provide feedback that's higher quality, higher quantity, not just simply corrective feedback that can really get students to that kind of bottom end of this analogy here. So let's kind of push forward a little bit, keep going through the session. So what are the different types of feedback? This is critical to understand because I know if I were to, when we look through, we're going to look through 4 types of feedback. And I know that as a former history teacher, I always tended to land on task feedback. And I don't think I paid enough attention to process and even self-regulation feedback. And so we're going to go through all 4 of these right now. So of these 4 types, task feedback, right? How well the task or the activity is understood by the learner. So this might include what the learner knows, what they've demonstrated. We can have corrective feedback on here, but it's very specific to that one task. It's so reasonable to have educators land on this type of feedback for a number of reasons. An expectation to crank through the curriculum, certain standards that have to be met, the time frame, right? The pacing guide that we have to follow. But I think if we can shift to feedback types 2 and 3, it can just have a tremendous impact on minimizing that gap of where the students are and where we want them to go. And the second type of feedback, one that is super powerful, is process feedback. And if we think about this, what does a student need to do in order to perform the task effectively? Not correcting their capacity to do it, but giving them guidance on what is the action they can take? What's the process they can take? So it might not say this. So I think about, I'll lean on my experience as a history teacher. It might not be, this is the technical thing you need to do, or this is how your thesis statement is maybe a little bit short or inaccurate or not quite as thorough as it should be, and like going after the thesis statement itself. But I would say for process, to improve your thesis statement, here's the steps that you need to take. It might be revisiting a video that we've done. It might be revisiting the practice and the notes we took on developing a high quality thesis statement. It might be to like conference with a colleague or a classmate that's already demonstrated the ability to write a really high, powerful one. So it's not simply being corrective and going, this is how you improve the task. It's here's the process you can use. And this is really powerful feedback. Even more powerful than that, which is really challenging, is providing feedback that's targeting self-regulation. So we talk about this all the time of students becoming independent learners, self-regulated learners, kind of controlling their own learning process. But are we providing feedback to get them there? So in this case, what does the student need to do to manage their own learning, to become self-monitoring of their experience, to plan their own experience? So what we're trying to do here is move beyond the specific task and instead focus on that learner's ability to kind of plan the process on their own. So giving them guidance around managing their time, or what's the next logical step they should take, or what's the best path they should go in order to kind of like accomplish the task, but not specifically task related. Unfortunately, right, there is self-level feedback that's often provided to learners. The self-level feedback is absolutely the least impactful kind of feedback, because it targets the quality of the learner, not even their ability to kind of engage with the work or get closer to the learning target. So this is the least impactful, as it targets the personal qualities or characteristics of the individual, and it's not necessarily related to the goal. So we see and we hear, I was definitely providing this type of feedback. Maybe you provided it on your own, or if you worked with a colleague that's on this sort of thing. But it's targeting the capacity of the learner, the quality of the learner. And while that might feel good for the learner to receive that type of feedback, I don't think it's really going to provide any ability for them to minimize that gap of here's where they are, here's where we need them to go. So we really want to try to avoid this. This is maybe, of these four, process, self-regulation definitely on the top, task right behind that, and self-level is really on the bottom of that. And this is getting pulled from decades of research around high-quality feedback and what it looks like. So to move on to the next phase of this, as we're doing like a condensed masterclass, it's what does it look like? So I've given some kind of like minimal examples, but this is a really good way, like this context, and this is the Hattie and Timperley model for high quality feedback. It's to structure your feedback to address these questions. And we can address these questions when we're kind of guiding students and minimizing that gap. It's, where am I going? Is the feedback we're providing for our students giving them a roadmap of where they need to go next, and where do they need to go to be able to complete the task and really demonstrate their understanding? The next phase here, how am I going? The work they've done so far, how is that demonstrating their ability to understand the concept and to complete that task? So it's, where have they been so far? How does that work align with what the learning targets are? And then the last phase here is, what can we do in terms of self-regulation or process to help them get to the next phase, to really complete the task with really high quality work, or clearly demonstrate that they know and understand what the target of the work is with the work they've created or the interaction they've had with us. There's another way to think about this, and I want to pull up another model really quickly. I don't have it in these slides, but I want to give you another analogy to think about. Give me 1 second as I pull it up. And then, John, I might kind of check in back with you to see any activity that's going on in the chat or any ideas we might want to address. But I have one more.
Greg, this is great, and I know that this is the most whistle-stop of whistle-stop tours imaginable here. Trying to get through all this in like a 25 or a 30-minute session. Right. Someone actually just asked, Stella, just about the playlist on YouTube. People are already jumping over and trying to check out the playlist just so they can be reviewing it and sharing it. Just wondering, is there an 8th part to it? So it was actually sort of more about the actual content rather than the
8th part is in process right now. The 8th part is going to be out there, hopefully very soon. It
is that fresh off the press that it is currently.
Oh, it's very fresh off the press, just in time for MoteCon.
I thought it would be something like that.
Yeah,
so at least we know it's up to date.
Absolutely. So the analogy that I wanted to share with you that's kind of slightly related to this is keep, stop, and start. So the Hattie and Timperley model of where am I going, how am I going, where to next, we can think about this as well as keep. What is the student doing? What are they demonstrating that they should persist with and keep doing? We go to stop. What is the action they've shown? What is the component of their work that it's a little bit more corrective? So this is incorrect. It's not aligned. They should stop doing this, right? This action. And then the last phase is start. What's something that they should start integrating into their work that's going to clearly demonstrate we know, we understand, there's the gap is really minimizing. So whether you're using the Hattie and Timperley model of where am I going, how am I going, where to next, or the keep, stop, start approach. So if you frame or design your feedback and make it look along any one of these two, I think it's going to hopefully increase the quality of your feedback and increase the impact on student learning. So as we push forward a little bit more as well, let me get to our next phase here, is the benefits of audio feedback. And it's funny, as I was digging into the research, and I've been working on this for quite some time for Mote, is that audio feedback is not a new thing. Like, we're talking going back into the 70s, there's research around audio feedback on cassette tapes. And then if you think about many learning management systems have embedded audio where educators can record audio. The problem with both of those types of feedback is it's not contextual. So think about the scenario where a university student may have been given a cassette tape of their professor or their instructor's audio feedback on their work. They have the work on paper, they're listening to the cassette tape, but it's not contextual. As they're playing it, it might be hard to follow along. Like, where is this feedback aligned to my actual work? And then if you think about just a raw MP3 file that might be uploaded to a learning management system, again, there's no context there. The benefit of tone and intention and clarity of thought and that kind of interpersonal connection, that's all embedded in audio. But without the context, it really has no value. The other kind of drawback of previous audio feedback systems prior to Mote is that the likelihood of a student going back and clicking play on that cassette tape or playing that MP3 audio, that long form audio file, and dragging the playhead to find exactly what they need to listen to, it's simply not going to happen. So if we think about what Mote allows us to do, and this is like academic research coming from the Weathers report, the educational impact of recorded audio feedback using the Mote app, if we simply look at the satisfaction with the amount of feedback that teachers can provide. Like, why audio feedback? Quantity. 44% compared to 15% of teachers not using Mote. Satisfaction with the frequency of feedback. Almost 50% of respondents using Mote said, yes, we're super satisfied with our frequency, compared to 9.8% not using Mote. Think about if you've ever, you might know off the top of your head the speed that you are as a typist. I know that I'm at about 60 to 70 words per minute, like pretty high functioning typist, maybe too many errors. And I'm aware that I speak maybe a little bit too quickly. I understand this. Speaking, I'm at easily 110, 120 words per minute. And I know that's too fast. Even if I were to pare that back a bit, if I'm typing at 60 words per minute, speaking at 100 words per minute, even if we just go the same amount of time, I'm not looking to increase my efficiency with my feedback process. I'm looking to increase the quantity of feedback I can provide. That's a no-brainer. We should consider using Mote immediately. If we even think about quality of the feedback, right? 46% happy with the quality of their feedback compared to 10% who don't use Mote. The ability, we demonstrated this in session 1, to use a mobile app and simply record your voice and talk so informally and personally to a student about their work, we can get increased quality. The agency here, what we mean by this is the feedback actionable by the learner. And if you dig into that feedback masterclass page on the Mote Learning Hub, there's a whole video devoted to kind of like obstacles that we can face around feedback. And one of them is students simply not understanding the vocabulary that we're using in a text format. So the feedback isn't even actionable. And think about in an audio environment, instead of simply typing, now as we might say something that's a little bit more complex, a little bit more nuanced, I have the ability to stop and clarify that because it's so informal, right? It's high quality, but it's almost conversational. So if I say something, go, hey, you know, you might not understand that. Let me clarify a little bit here. And that simply won't come, it won't translate over if we're doing that in a typed environment, right? So there's huge benefits with regard to agency. And the last one, while quantity, quality, and agency are important, tone is so critical. Like, think about what the impact is with written feedback can be perceived as harsh because there's simply no tone there. And I'm a self-admitted, like, I'm emoji illiterate. And I'm sure there's educators that are using emojis in their like comments and their feedback. I don't have the ability to do that, but I can have a really positive kind of like uplifting tone when I'm commenting on student work, if I can do that with audio and not only text. So audio feedback, it embeds the tone. You can avoid miscommunication. It allows you to provide nuance in your voice as if you're having a one-on-one conversation with students. And I know at Mote, we're talking a lot about, hopefully, as students are able to be in a face-to-face environment with their teacher, what role does Mote play? And I think, if anything, it plays a more critical role. You know, in a classroom of 20, 25, or 30 students, you might not have the time or ability to sit down with every student and have those discussions with them. So text comments are helpful to a degree, but now if we can provide those audio comments, it could allow us to simulate having that face-to-face discussion, but now we can have it through contextual audio that's embedded right in student work. So many reasons to do that. So with that, I think we're good on the timing right now, which I can't believe we've done this. I'm really happy with this right now. Feedback with Mote. What does this look like? So we can really think about 3 core environments, right? If we're a Google Workspace for Education school, I would say 90% of the time, the work students are engaged with is in a Google document, in Google Slides, or in Google Classroom with those files coming into a Google Classroom environment. And thankfully, right, Mote works across all 3 of those environments. But what I'm going to demonstrate is different techniques that we can do that with. So we can use Mote in the comment section of a document. We can use Mote in the body of a document with these embedded Mote audio cards, or we can use the MotePad to record our voice and then use the Mote book to reuse our audio comments. So while I mentioned earlier, like, it might not be the case that you're any more efficient with typing over audio. You might say, I'm going to spend a minute per comment typing, a minute per comment with audio. You'll get more quantity with audio. However, imagine if, again, in the case of a former high school history teacher, I find myself leaving the same types of comments over and over and over again on a student introductory paragraph and thesis statement. What I can do with the MotePad is record my voice and then reuse that as thesis feedback 1, thesis feedback 2. And I'm going to demonstrate all of that now. So give me 1 second to get, and John, I'm just going to push my screen back up with a blank document. Hold on 1 second.
Great. Can I just come in and ask a really quick question, actually?
Yeah, go for it,
someone actually dropped in, Katrien, said about, would it be possible to hear an example of self-regulation feedback? And just if you have any examples of that.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. All right.
Cool.
I'll do that here, right? So the problem is I have like this demonstration of student work, not like the actual work they've provided. But here, I'll do that. I'll demonstrate that live. So we're going to look at 3 approaches to feedback right now. The first is simply highlighting the student work, using the comment section, and then commenting right here in the comment section. So let's try to do that. So, hey, John, I'm looking at your introductory paragraph, and it's evident that you've been paying super close attention to our process of writing thesis statements, and I can tell that you even dug into the framework that we're using. Moving forward, for you to be able to effectively develop a high-quality thesis statement, the steps that I think you should take are, 1, is revisit the examples that we provided when we first started working on our research papers. That would be in document 4 in your notebook. So revisit that. That would be the first step in the process. The next thing I should think you should do is work with your desk partner, your shoulder partner, and take a look at their feedback. I can think of 1 or 2 desk partners in particular that would really be able to help you in terms of like peer-to-peer coaching about your thesis statement. So after you've looked at the previous one, you've worked with your shoulder partner or your desk partner, what I want you to do is engage in an experiment of writing 3 revisions of your thesis statement. And then once you've done that, let me know in the comment section and follow up. And then we'll do a one-on-one meeting so I can kind of revisit and see how you've progressed. So I'm going to drop that in now. And that was a lot. I can't imagine typing that much for a student. I'm going to drop that in now. So that to me would be a process comment. I'm not talking specifically about, here's the things you have to do. Here's how I'm correcting your thesis statement. Here's what's inadequate about it. Here's how it went a little bit off the tracks. It's really about, here's the things that you need to do as an individual to take ownership of the process. But I'm going to guide you in what are the steps you need to take, but not tell you specifically be corrective about what's wrong with the work. I'm not saying corrective is not worthwhile. We should leave corrective feedback. But maybe later on in the year, as we're thinking about kind of like gradually releasing some responsibility from the teacher and increasing it on the student, that type of feedback could work really well. So I know we're going to get tight on time. Let me demo this really quickly. I'm going to use the MotePad and record my voice. So here's another example of feedback I might provide for the learner. But in this case, it won't be in the comment section. It will be in the body of the document. I will hit done, copy the link to that Mote, and simply paste it into the document. And the reason why we might do that is now it's an embedded audio card. The last thing, because I want to be aware of the time, John, and make sure we can wrap up, is that if we insert, let me do this. I'll do new comment. Imagine I wanted to leave some feedback. And instead of me simply tapping to record, I'm going to tap and hold. And notice what it pops up is my Mote book with all of my pre-recorded feedback. So now I can leave really high quality feedback. Just go, yep, they need thesis statement. We're going to comment and drop that in. And that's audio that I've already recorded ahead of time. Now we have plenty of resources on the Mote YouTube channel on how to use the Mote book and how to comment and how to paste the link and use the Mote pad. So all those resources are there for you. And then what I'm also going to drop in the chat one more time, and John, if you wouldn't mind pushing it out publicly if we haven't already.
No problem.
There we
Is
go.
it the link to your recent blog, the Feedback Masterclass?
Yep, and I just dropped that in the chat to you. If you'd like to push that out publicly to everyone,
I have shared it once, Greg, but you can never share quality content too many times, I think. So
Agreed.
let me make sure that's dropped in. And that is actually, I think it's important to say that that what's great about when Greg shares his work is that it isn't just like a one-dimensional resource. He's got a nice blog to describe the way that it's going, to back up the research and really explain that thoroughly. There's a video, there's an accompanying video series in this case, but you've also shared a template, which was this time was actually created in collaboration, as you said, with the wonderful Paula from Slides Mania. So
yeah.
Huge shout out to her again for being just a brilliant person, really. But yeah.
And actually, John, do we have just maybe one more minute?
Of course we do.
Okay, so what I want to do is on the Feedback Masterclass page on the Mote Learning Hub there's a little welcome video if you want to hand this off to a colleague so they get a sense of what we're trying to accomplish. The whole slide deck with all of the ideas are right here. You can make a copy of that. Like John said, Paula from Slides Mania helped us with the fantastic design of that. But it's all broken down. So why feedback? A 5-minute video. And then I have these kind of reflection breaks where you can stop and I'll give you a thinking routine to really kind of reflect on what you just explored. When you move on to part 2 of types of feedback, again, a nice 5-minute video and then a thinking routine to really get you reflecting on this. So this is something that you could use in a department on a grade level team, or at the school level. If you had a team of teachers that wanted to engage with this, I think there could be a really helpful experience for you.
That's awesome, Greg. And I know you're worried about the 30-minute limit there, but you were comfortably before the buzzer. So,
I did it.
Yeah, you more than did it, and we'll obviously be really excited to hear what people think about the Feedback Masterclass, all of those resources. And I know that it's something that we've discussed the possibility of, Greg, is maybe having like a distinct event where there might be a webinar that would be exclusively devoted, maybe an hour or two, to actually taking people through the Feedback Masterclass so that they might be equipping themselves to be able to share it with their own school and learning communities.
Absolutely.
But for now, Greg, there were no other questions coming through, just lots of people saying thanks very much. Everyone enjoyed the being able to say hello to the godfather of app smashing at the beginning. I think it's important to underline that. But yeah, as always, Greg, thank you ever so much. And until next time, I will say cheerio.
Thank you, John. Thanks everyone for joining us. Good luck with the rest of MoteCon. We'll see you in some future sessions.
Cheers, Greg. Okay, so we have a couple of minutes until the next session. I'm really, really excited about the next session. It's a speaker who I know is going to be amazing. So what I would just say, as we've done before, is if you just take a minute or two, stretch your legs, and then we will see you at 1/2 the hour. So actually, there's just under a minute now, so it better be a quick break, but we'll see you soon. Thank you. Okay, so we are now coming into session number 4 of MoteCon 2021, and delighted to introduce our next speaker, who is Director of Innovation and Education Technology at Ballew School and author of Tech with Heart. She is passionate about bringing innovative tools into the classroom to create a safe learning environment for all students to find their voice and build confidence. Her work has featured in USA Today, The Washington Post, CNN, and PBS NewsHour. And she has also been named a teacher of the future, by NAIS. The list goes on and on. But in the interest of time, I will just bring her straight onto the stream. And it is my pleasure to introduce you to Stacey Roshan. Stacey, hello, how are you? You are temporarily muted, by the way, Stacey, I will just say.
Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you. And thank you for the warm welcome. And I'm just so excited to be here and sharing here at MoteCon. Mote has been one of the apps in this past year that has just taken off. And I'm just so excited about all of the possibilities. And I'm really excited to share with you all today. And I am going to be focusing on using Mote in Google Slides, particularly in this session, some ideas for student collaboration and also for us to be able to give really effective feedback. So if you are on Twitter, please do connect with me. I'm at BuddyXO on Twitter, and I'd love to vibe with you all, to exchange ideas. And I also have a website, techiemusings.com. And then, of course, my book is Tech with Heart. Now, I would love if you wouldn't mind to join in and collaborate with me a little bit. Let's make this a little bit of fun. So if you are able to, go ahead and log into this Pear Deck. If you don't want to, that's okay. You can just watch. But if you're up for it, please do log in. You would go to joinpd.com and you would type in this 6-letter code, no spaces. And from there, you'll get all the slides of my session today as well. You'll be able to interact with me a little bit. So I'll give you all a moment to log in there. Again, go to joinpd.com and it is ITZLBH. Just a moment to log in. Thank you, Katie. I see you in the chat. Thank you for giving that, putting the code in there. That's awesome. All right. So let's go ahead and move on. Also, direct link into the YouTube chat. Okay, so you can just click on the link that's now in the YouTube chat, and that would get you directly onto the Pear Deck. Let's get going. So again, my goal today is really to start talking about how we can collaboratively build presentations. Also, we'll get into talking about creating asynchronous presentations, providing effective personalized feedback on the teacher end, and then I hope to have some time for some Q&A and reflection at the end. Just as a quick little check-in, how are you all doing today? Go ahead and drag your dot. I'm glad most of you are doing great. I'm really sorry that some of you are not. Oh, maybe you changed your mind. I'm doing really well. I'm so excited again just to be learning from MoteCon, to be able to go back and just get some of these ideas that everybody's been sharing and bring them to the teachers that I work with this year. It's really exciting. All right. Let's continue on. And just curious, where do you work? What's your role? Where are we coming from today? And I should say I'm from outside of DC in Maryland. Oh, cool. We're all over. You can look up at the screen and see where people are joining in from as well. Oh, hi. You're close by me in Garrett Park, Maryland. I'm in Potomac, Maryland. Wow. Awesome to see that we have such a diverse audience. So hopefully what I share today will speak to a lot of different people, regardless of your role. So I'm a math teacher. I also am a tech integrationist. So I'll continue on. And just a quick little share out, if you're already using Mote, what is one of your favorite reasons for using Mote? And I'm going to give everybody 1 minute to answer this question. Adding audio to Google Slides. I'm right there with you. That's what I will be sharing today. Increasing student practice and speaking in the target language. Yeah, that's huge. Accessibility, absolutely. Feedback, and I want to talk a bit about that too today. To add voice to learning paths, voice matters. I think it's so important that we provide students with a variety of platforms to interact with us, and that we are also giving instruction with a variety of different methods, right? Because some students are going to hear better, some students might take it in better on a video, some students will read really well, and I think it's just incredible to have a tool like Mote that's so easy for us to go right in our Google Slides and add in that voice that really can be personalized, that can help students digest the material. I hate typing, yeah. Quickly adding audio messages for ESL students. Feedback. Yes, so that students can hear my intention. I think tone can be so hard to get across in a purely, written context. And so I love being able to add voice for that too. I actually was a purely online teacher for a couple of years, and voice was huge in interacting with my students and really providing some of that critical feedback. So thank you for sharing some of these ideas. Hopefully you're seeing this, and I've read some of them aloud. All right, let's continue on. So just a little bit of background about me before we move into more examples that I want to share with you. So for me personally, I was very much that introverted perfectionist in the classroom who wanted to participate, but I didn't always know how to. By that, I mean that sometimes I just needed more time to process before I was ready to raise my hand. Being put on the spot was never where my best ideas could shine. And so participation was really, really challenging for me as a student, and actually took quite a toll on me in school. I oftentimes felt like I wasn't measuring up to my peers, even though I was doing well on assessments. I just didn't feel in the classroom like I was able to participate like I wanted to, like some of my peers were. And so, it's become really important to me to look to tech tools as a solution to, first of all, allow all the unique voices in our classroom to shine, for them to be able to find a platform that really works best for them. And so they can communicate with us in a way that fits their needs, so that they feel safe in sharing, and so that they're able to share in, again, that format that fits their learning style. In addition, just for communication, like we've seen in some of the slides that we just saw, people participating and saying that what really matters is being able to express that tone, to be able to give effective, efficient feedback on the teacher end. That's so important also as we're connecting with our students and building strong relationships. And so to me, technology is a tool to help us build compassion in our classrooms. And I think Mote is a perfect example of a tool that does just that. And that's why I'm so excited about Mote. All right, so the first idea that I want to dig into is kind of this idea of collaboratively building presentations. Simple idea. Every idea that I'm going to share with you today is a simple idea. Nothing novel, and I think that's what's so beautiful about it, so easy to do. So let me go back over to my actual slides here. And let me make this a little bit bigger so that you can see on the full screen. All right, so the idea here is just that Mote can really be used for communication. So you can have a little communication sidebar that students can do. So say that, you know, they're building this Google slide presentation together. Instead of, if they're not together and they're kind of working on this asynchronously, they could call each other on the phone, of course, if they're doing it together. But what if they're working asynchronously? A great way to do that, of course, as we all love, the comments in Google Slides. Leave little comments, reply to each other. But what you could also do is leave the voice notes right in here. So let me just show you the recorded demo that I've done here, and then I'll take you through the process. Hi, partner. When you get a chance, can you find who illustrated this image so that we can add it to our citations? Thanks. Sure thing. No problem. I'm on it. And then, of course, you can reply back with the voice and with text itself. And so I think that is the power here, is that we can do this so easily right on the slide simply by using Mote. So let me go ahead and clear these so that we can start over and kind of do it. All right, so anything that you're building, so you're building the slide, maybe this is a slide that you want your partner to do, but you wanted to weigh in with some ideas that you want them to add. So you would just add a comment. So you'll see here that I'm really using the idea of adding comments here in Mote as opposed to this Mote icon here, which I'm going to talk about momentarily. So just bear with me for a moment. I'll talk more about this icon in a minute. But for this conversational piece, again, of like building a collaborative presentation where you just want to have some asynchronous voice chat, I think the best way to do that is by adding comments here, and then just go ahead and click. And oops, I got signed out. Let me sign back in. But this is the best way, I think, for students to be able to now communicate with one another, for them to be able to, again, they can chat back and forth through both voice and text. And I think that is the real power here. So let's do it one more time. Hi, so I was hoping that you could actually fill out this slide, but here were some ideas that I'd love for you to add to the slide. Could you do X, Y, Z? And then that's it, right? It's going to be posted. The students can now click and listen. The partner could click and listen right in line. They would be able to reply to this. They can reply to any other comments in your Google Docs and in your Google Slides. And so they can reply with text like that. They can also reply using a Mote voice note. So again, simple way to have a little bit of voice communication and have it asynchronously, which I love. All right, I'm going to move on to the next idea, which is asynchronous presentations. And I have a great example that was done by a wonderful arts teacher that I work with, Alice Shikhan, and she did this with her visual arts students, and they did peer critiques. Now, normally when she did this type of thing, sorry, let me make my screen a little bit bigger here. So normally when she did this type of thing, it would take several days in class for them to kind of do this presentation, for them to then, you know, everybody had to present, everybody had to critique. So in the classroom, it just took up a lot of class time. And so what we were able to do was move this over to asynchronous presentations using Mote. And so students created their image, and then they did a little artist statement using Mote, and then the commentary was all through the comments like I just showed you, and they could choose a written comment or a Mote comment. So let me show you what it actually looked like. So here's one of the examples here. So you can see that the student created a little voice note.
Music plays an important role in my life because I listen to it very frequently whenever I can, and it's always relaxing and fun to have in the background whenever I'm doing something. This particular song is the instrumental version of a rap song, and the song is significant to me because it introduced me to a new style of music and also has been one of my favorite songs for a while. I chose to paint this because it represents what comes to my mind right here.
So the idea behind this was that students actually had to pick a piece of artwork that they had created and they synced it with music that resonated with them. So they were able to add in their music of choice so that whoever was watching this could listen to the music. Also, you can embed any YouTube video so that you can just play it right in line with the presentation. So that was helpful too. So they could sorry. There we go. So you could play it in line and be looking at the presentation at the same time. And then they were able to add their artist statement. And it was really important to the teacher that they were able to add their artist statement and give that expression and give that tone and give that voice. And so all the students, they asynchronously, of course, recorded their presentation slide. So they built this. The teacher just set it up with each student. She put the student's name on each slide so that each student knew which slide was theirs. And then they were tasked with just putting in their image, their music choice, and then they chose to record their mote. And then there was a whole discussion on the side. I've deleted that for student privacy because that would have had names attached. So I did delete all of that. But that was what it looked like. Was then all the commentary was on the side and they were able to just give comments on this slide in particular. So they would just go over here, they would add a comment, and then they could give any peer critique. So that was the goal of this, to do some peer critique, and they could type their peer critique, or they could choose to add it as a voice comment with Mote. So they had the choice of choosing whichever platform that best for them. So I just loved that, and I hope to see a lot more presentations go this way because, again, we're giving students the opportunity to practice their presenting skills, still getting at that voice piece with the Mote. And this one here, to record the Mote for the slide itself, that is where you use this icon here. So if I click on this one, I don't know how it got logged out of everything. I should have double-checked that before I started. Sorry. So if you click that one right there, hopefully you get the drill. It's the same as the other, except it adds it right on the slide itself instead of adding it as a comment. So that's the difference between the two ideas there, is that in the comments, it adds it as a comment on the sidebar. But if you use this Mote icon right here, then it's going to add it to the slide itself, and you can just press the play bar here on the slide. So I hope that that made sense. I'm sorry for my lack of demoing that well. Let me do it again. Hi, so this is a demonstration of using the Mote icon that I was telling you about at the top. And so now that's going to add it to the slide itself. You can go ahead and insert it, and you can actually insert multiple on one slide, but it would insert it again on the slide itself as opposed to in the comments area. Okay, so let's continue on. And the last idea that I really wanted to dig into is providing effective personalized feedback. So from the teacher end, one thing that is amazing that you can do in Mote is that you can save comments and you can reuse them. So any of the Mote that you record, you can save them in right in Mote. So you can, again, just become more effective in giving that detailed level of feedback. So let's go ahead and do that again, show how that works. So if I go ahead here and say I'm going to give a comment on the side, I can click, as it says, I can click and hold for my Mote book, and that would then pull up the Motes that I've created and saved in the past. So I can go ahead and reuse any of the ones that I have saved. And I'll show you how to save it in a moment. But we all know that when we're giving feedback, you know, one student makes a mistake, 5 other students make that same type of mistake. So just being able to reuse any feedback is just such a time saver. And again, we can spend a little bit more time getting detailed feedback, knowing that we're going to be able to reuse it on multiple student presentations. So when I would record one of these voice notes, when I go in,
making a quick little note,
I'm going to just go in and edit that one that I had recorded. You can see that I have the ability to save it as, and that's where you can name your Mote so that you know, of course, which one you're using, so that it's easy to pick from, because you don't want to have to listen to all of them. So you just would name it, and then you save it, and then to reuse it, again, instead of just clicking the button here to record, you just hold down, and then when you hold down, you would have the option to pick from any of the ones that you had recorded before. So hopefully that made good sense. But again, this is one of my favorite things to really be able to use in terms of providing that efficient feedback. It is actually a time saver. All right. So I do want to make sure that I leave some time to give you time to reflect and also to ask questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move your Pear Deck that you are in into a student pace mode so that you can now move through the ending slides at your own pace and kind of reflect and answer some of these questions as you would like to. And so you'll see here, again, this is like what I hope you get from the session today, is just when we give our learners the right platforms to express their ideas and integrate tools that allow them to respond in a way that is most comfortable to them, we allow each student's most powerful voice to shine. I have some compiled tutorials at the end of just Mote tutorials that I've made for the teachers that I work with, and you can use any of these tutorials as they would help. I also have the idea that I shared here. And then the last slide is for discussion. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and leave them here and I'll see them, or you can leave them in the YouTube chat. And I would like to have that opportunity to answer some of them before we close.
Hi, Stacey.
Hi.
Thank you so much. That was such a wonderful way that you integrated all those different tools, bringing in Pear Deck at the start just to assess the temperature of the room, and then to take us through and introduce us there. And that was such a lovely way that you demonstrated Mote within slides, both for its comment functionality, moving on then to Mote for slides with that button at the top, and then also talking about the Mote book. We have had a couple of questions coming through. So what I'll do is I'll just push those to the screen. So we've had one from one of our earlier presenters, Will Jackson, who thought that your presentation was amazing, as we all did. Just wondering, his question was, what was the split in text versus voice feedback provided on those art projects that you discussed?
You know, it's funny. I think sometimes it takes time. So it was almost like they did 2 different rounds of this type of thing. And at first, people wanted to do text. And so I think that one thing that I've discussed with some teachers is that a requirement might be, especially early on, to try out the voice and see how you like it. Because once students try it, a lot of them realize that actually it's great and it's much easier, but they're used to doing something a certain way, right? And so how do you get them to kind of change what they're used to? I think that is something that's important to do. So early on in the year, especially now, you know, that we'll be able to use all the functionality of Mote from the beginning of the year, whereas last year it was more of like things were, you know, you were developing, things were rolling out as the year went on. And so like laying some of those expectations, I think from the beginning of the year, having everybody try at least one time, please record one voice note and one written note so that students, again, will then be able to make a more informed decision, I think is really important and a great way to start off class. So at first, students were definitely, I will tell you, they were a little bit hesitant to do some of the voice feedback just because they were more used to the text, but then they were required to do it as part of it, and then they got more used to it.
Yeah, and that's one of those things as well, isn't it? Where as you say, we all, regardless of whether we're students or teachers or otherwise, that we fall into a particular rhythm and a way of doing things. And even if something is introduced as like, this is going to be great for you, like until you try it and until you experience that particular win. And I know that in my time of introducing tools, that if you can't introduce something as a quick win, it becomes a really hard push. So I think that that's a great idea to start that off as almost like a compulsory, well, we'd like you to give it a go. And then you're kind of going to get those benefits, not only in terms of the time being saved, but as you and Greg have mentioned previously, that you get those benefits of being able to hear the intonation of voice and those things that are much harder to capture in text. And when you use your voice, they're actually much harder to misunderstand and to be misconstrued. There's another question pop up here, which is actually specific to MoteBook. So let me just jump here, actually. I just shared the wrong thing momentarily there. So someone's asking specifically about, can you add, Datonia is asking, can you add multiple notes to your MoteBook ahead of time, or do you have to wait until you add it into that slide or document itself? Now, I do know the answer to this, but it's your presentation, so I don't want to steal it from you, Stacey.
Sure. I mean, you can go ahead, but there's no reason you can't record some of these in advance. So you don't just have to record in the presentation itself. Mote is like accessible here. I have it clicked up. Hopefully you can see it well enough. And so you can record a voice note anywhere. Actually, it doesn't even have to be in Google Slides or Google Docs. You can record it anywhere. You can go back to actually your Mote itself, like go back to my activity page. Let me pull that up. So you can see all the ones that you have recorded in the past that are here. I mean, like, I can't even get into all the stuff that you can do in this presentation. It didn't even get into this dashboard at all, like seeing who had noticed them, seeing which ones had not gone, the ability to like do the, reactions from the student end and all that. So yeah, I feel like I didn't even touch on so much of it.
We're going to have to invite you back for a second session, Stacey. You busy tomorrow?
Yeah.
I think yeah. So just as Stacey said, you are able to record any voice notes using Mote to your MoteBook anywhere that you can record a Mote. So that's throughout Google's ecosystem. But if you're new to Mote, then it might be worth mentioning that you could also record voice notes using something called the MotePad. So if you click on the extension itself at the top right-hand corner of your browser, you will get a drop down, and right at the top of that menu, it will just say click here to record a voice note. And then those steps that Stacey talked us through so beautifully just now, you'll be able to follow exactly the same process and do that through the MotePad as well. Stacey, there are no more questions, and we are very sadly drawing to the end of the half an hour there. But I just wanted to say, on behalf of everyone, I think there's a miniature echo there, but thank you so much for sharing not only your time but your knowledge there. And if you have any notes from that discussion, if you'd like to, I can see that you pulled a couple of those up on your Pear Deck. Please feel free to share some of those comments.
All right. Thank you all for joining me today. I'm sorry that I had to sign back in a couple of times. I should have had that ready ahead of time, but hopefully you were still able to follow the ideas. And I am just so excited to see what ideas come to life in the classroom this year. So please do share on Twitter. I'd love for you to tag me so that I can see what you're doing as well, because we can all learn together. So thank you again for having me.
Perfect. Thank you ever so much, Stacey. Thank you. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Goodbye for now. Okay, so we are right, actually. Stacey finished exactly on time there. What a wonderful presentation that was. So because we're on the hour, so 4 o'clock Eastern, we can actually get going with our next speaker, who I'm, again, really, really excited to be introducing. So this particular speaker is a Mote ambassador, is the CEO of Gold EDU, a new Google for EDU partner, and is the EdTech lead for the Pickerington Local Schools District. She is also a Google certified innovator and trainer, and it is, of course, Stephanie Howell. Hello, Stephanie. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, we're 4 sessions down, so yeah, you are number 5 on the list, and I'm really excited about this because I love the game that you're going to introduce. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, I'm really hoping that there'll be something I can play not only with colleagues but with my children at home perhaps. But yeah, without any further ado, Stephanie, I will share your screen. Perfect. And I will leave it to you. I'll see you shortly.
Thanks. All right, everyone. I hope you love bingo. Bingo is like one of my favorite games. And my husband makes fun of me because I am like, when I retire and I go to a retirement home, like that is my life goal. Oh, hi, Avid. I want to play bingo every single day of my life. And people are like, you're crazy. But I just love this game. Like you go and you mark off things and then you get to yell bingo when you get called that number. And so we're going to talk about how to use Mote Bingo and how to kind of get your students to use it and put more work on your students. Also, my name is Stephanie Howell. So if you haven't, feel free to follow me on Twitter, or if you have questions, throw them in the chat, or feel free to throw them into Twitter. Feel free to DM me, and I'm happy to also reach out that way. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to show you an example of what this could look like. So in your classroom, here is the bingo board. And so right here, you can see all of these different bingo boards. These 2 I have created, and then the amazing Nadine, she created these ones as well, and she is great at designing. So this is just the board. It's a simple bingo board. And if you zoom in, because I know we've got little older eyes out there because Abid's in the chat, you can see what will you do differently next time. And then the students can create a bingo board, and this one is based on reflection. And so they can zoom in and they can play bingo. This one right here is talking about characters in a story. So they're describing a character in detail. Right here are numbers, and Nadine, she actually teaches French. And so what a great way to have students say these numbers in French, and then they add those recordings to their bingo board. This one as well, again, it's French. So she even did a sentence starter for her students to help them. And again, you can put these directions off in the gray space, which is amazing. Okay, so right here, what the students do is they've got their bingo board. You might assign this in Google Classroom or your learning management system, and every single student gets a board. Once the students have a board, they're going to have that Mote extension. And once they have it, they just click the purple. And then they would just talk about whatever happened in the story or a reflection. So let me do a reflection from this school week. So we just started school this week, and it was pretty intense and insane. What we did is we had students come in and had them get on their Chromebooks. They had to log in, get everything set up. And that was kind of my reflection for the week. And then it thinks and it adds a game piece. Like, look how cute this bingo piece is. Let's see if I can get it. And then the students can add their little mote to their bingo board. So there it is, and there they go. There's their little chip. And it's just a fun way to have the students play bingo, and they're able to also record their voice. And so again, they would need that to get them in a row. And once they have them in a row, they have won the game bingo. And then again, you as the teacher, you can click and you're able to listen to their voices. You could have them share with another student and have them listen to the audio as well. So again, doing like a think, pair, share is how I could do this. As well, let's listen to other people's motes, and then they could also leave comments as well. So over here, you can just kind of see, again, they'll click the purple, they record their voice, and it gets added to the bingo board. And that is their bingo chips. So they would just move their little chips around the bingo board to create those chips, and they can resize them. And it's just a great way to get a bingo. And then once they have bingo, they can either yell it, or you could have them either create like another mote. Bingo. And then they can just add their bingo off to the side in the gray space. So just a couple different ways to have your students using bingo and their voice to maybe do a reflection. Maybe you want them to talk about the story that they're reading. Maybe they have an independent reading activity that they're using, and you want them to do some of those type of activities. Well, you can with Mote Bingo. And then right here, again, this was the French examples. So now that you've seen an example, let's create. So that, again, was my example on reflection. I want to now create something using social emotional learning because that is so huge in today's world. And I'm actually going to delete my bingo board. Well, my bingo pieces. I'm going to use Nadine's because I just love her layout. She made this after I kind of sent this out on Gold, the idea of this. And you can just see, I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to delete her numbers. Okay, so again, I'm going to share these templates. I see it in the chat. I don't know how I'm supposed to share them, but I will share them either on Twitter or if we can throw them into the chat, that would be amazing, which I'm pretty sure we can do. So let me throw that in there before anyone else. And feel free to make a copy and create with me as I'm creating this social emotional one. So again, I'm just going in, I'm deleting the numbers from this board because I'm lazy and I don't want to create a new one. And a faster way is if I would have hit Shift Command and then I can kind of delete all of them at once. Okay, I've got my board all set and ready to go. Now that my board is all set, I am going to add some text. So I love this Luxon font, so that is perfect. I'm going to go in and I am going to add TV, show, and then I want movie, okay? And this is, again, my students are doing this as an SEL activity. It's called this or that. And what they're going to do is they are going to go in and say TV or movie, which one they would prefer. And I want them to say why. So I want them to explain why they pick TV or movie. So this or that. And then which do you prefer? I'm going to have them answer using Mote and explain why. And again, I might put a sentence starter for some of my students that might need that as well. I can add images onto here if I want to. So maybe I've got like this cute little icon of a TV show. I can add that to my bingo board because this is a Google slide. So again, I can add this right on here and I can kind of change whatever layout I want to do with it. Let's see if I can, just to add some icons. Okay, now I can go over here and I can add the next one. So maybe I do board games, or do my students like video games? And again, I want to know why they picked that. Car, and let's do truck. Let's do summer and winter. And feel free in the chat to let me know, are you a summer person or a winter person? And then I've got beach, and let's do mountains. And again, I'm just creating whatever I wanted. I could do math facts with this. I could do another type of social and emotional check-in. I could have my students do this with retelling a story or whatever I wanted to do, where I wanted them to use their voice. They have the power to do that. And it's kind of a game because, again, I'm using bingo, and I could give the first student that completes their math facts using their voice, they get a prize or something like that if I really wanted to. So it could just be really fun, or it could, again, be that morning meeting time where I get to know my students a little bit better. And let us know in the chat as well, like, what ideas are you guys thinking about? How might you use this bingo with your students? I would really love to know what you're thinking and how might you use this in the classroom. Because again, if you teach another language, just like Nadine, like that is awesome. And this is a great way to use that. So I would just love to hear what you guys are thinking in the chat, because we grow as a community. So you might be able to steal or use an idea from someone else in the community, and then you can make it even better for your students. or you can just steal it if you're lazy like me. And you're able to kind of talk about that as well. Okay, I'm going to keep on going. You can just see again, I'm just creating this bingo board. I'm just typing the different things in the boxes, and then we'll be able to play. This you could also play with another 2 students play together. So maybe you have multiple students and they have to get 2 chips on the same card. So they're using that speaker note and they're doing like a partner work. There aren't really any rules. You get to make them up. So that's what's so great about this activity is you can make up the rules because you're the teacher. And so I like to make up my own rules all the time. And so sometimes I'll say, okay, we're going to partner up and we're going to do this activity together where you both are going to put in, or maybe you make a connect tic-tac or connect 4 board, and your students have to go in and be the little chips for the Connect 4. This is not just limited to bingo. There are so many games that can help with this idea for your students. And another thing is games can really help break down some of those barriers for some of our students. Some of our students are shy, but a game can really help them make those connections with their classroom. And you're able to open up some of those walls that might be put up by them through a game. I mean, just today we played a game and the kids, the teacher was like, that student's usually quiet, and they get active and interactive with others when it is kind of a game and it's fun. And learning doesn't have to be boring. It shouldn't be boring. You're able to do fun activities just like Mote Bingo with some of these different ideas. All right, so we're almost there. And again, this is taking me maybe 6 minutes, 7 minutes at most. All I'm doing is thinking of different ideas to throw on here. And it's just a quick, hey, I want to get to know you. And again, my students get to pick which ones they're going to leave that voice note for.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi.
I know that I know you've done an amazing job whipping through this through the bingo card here. Just wanted to say there's been some great comments coming through. I know that you've really been encouraging, which is such a good idea, people to be throwing some ideas out about how they might actually use ideas like this in their own classrooms. So we've had people saying, like, for example, could be used at the start of the year to maybe allow students to get to know one another in a similar activity. Language learners, Mote's always a big hit with them, as you know. We've also had someone chip in, I think that you know a bit, saying that there should be a grid view versus a list view entry on this particular bingo card there. But
okay, I will do that next, Abid. Wow.
There you go. And they're very, very grateful that you were able to share that into the that you shared that as well. That was the overwhelming response, was joy when that link was shared.
Yeah, don't work harder. Just steal templates.
There you go.
All right, I got 2 more. Let's see if we can get these done. And again, keep throwing ideas out there because I love what you guys have already said, that you kind of are thinking and all that kind of stuff. And feel free to use this one on Monday. So I know I might send this out to my teachers because I'm like, hey, this is a fun activity that they could quickly do because all they need is 5 different squares. And like, for example, I'm doing peanut butter and chocolate. So I might learn that a student is allergic to peanut butter through this activity. Okay, so my bingo board is done. And again, you can add icons. I'm not going to. I'm going to take these off, actually. But you could if you wanted to. So right there, I've got my bingo board done. Again, the kids go up to this mote. They click it. They click the purple. I like chocolate more than peanut butter. However, I do like them both together. They make a really good pair. But if I had to pick between peanut butter and chocolate, it would definitely be chocolate because I love the taste of chocolate and it like melts right in my mouth. Again, that creates their little board. They can re-listen to it and then they can insert it right onto their bingo board. So there is my purple mote. And I'm just going to put that on there. And there's a question in the chat. Is there a way to change the color of the mote icon on the bingo board? Oh, let's not listen to my voice real quick. Oh my gosh. let's see if I can move this real quick. Okay, let's see. So, if I can move it over, because that's bothering me. I like chocolate. All right, there we go. I'm just going to leave it because it doesn't want to move. Okay, so I'm going to click my motes. Let's see if we can change the color, which I'm not sure, but I am like one that will just test things. So over here, we're in format options, and usually, let's see, we've got size and rotate, position, recolor. Look at this, guys. You can change that purple color. However, we do know that we love the Mote purple. So, but you could do this pretty blue, or you could have students kind of change it and move it around. So yeah, that's new to me. So we just learned about that. Hopefully, that's really, really cool. But I do love the Mote purple. So I don't know if I would change it, but I could see some of the kids that might want to change it. So again, I clicked the little Mote icon. Let me see right here if I can get it. There we go. And I can go over here to recolor. I'm in format options, and then see how I have all these different options that I could have changed this to. And again, it was that Mote purple, but right there I could do that blue color. So that is an option if you wanted to change that color and you wanted to do that. You can also go over here and hit replace image. And I can upload from my computer, which I don't even know what's on my computer today. Oh, there we go. We can do the gold logo. And look, my Mote is now my logo. I probably would not replace that for bingo. I mean, you could, but I really just like having that speaker as the like bingo chip, but that's my personal preference. So you could kind of go and do whatever you wanted. And I love too, if one of my kiddos changed the color, they'll all want to. Yes, but if you are playing with a partner or you're playing Connect 4, because like I feel like I could just kind of duplicate this slide. Now you're getting 2 for 1 instead of just bingo. We're getting Connect 4 as well. I could play Connect 4 with my students. And so if I went to Mote and I started to answer the question with my Mote, one student could be the Mote purple and another student could be that blue color. And then I'm able to see which students responded in what color. So I think that is such a great idea. And you're able to, again, go in here, format options, and then your students could recolor. One student is that blue color, and then your other student is that purple color. And so right here, they're playing that game. And I can quickly see, okay, this student is this color, this student's that color. Got it, as I'm grading. And then you can kind of also maybe have to +1 this activity. You've got your purple, you've got your colors. Maybe this was an independent activity. So then your next steps would be maybe the blue person is giving feedback to the purple person. And so they're talking about how they love cheese pizza. Well, the blue person comes in and they say, well, I love cheese pizza too because, or I like the reason that you said that. And then you have that small class community kind of happening in your classroom. So I love that idea. And that just kind of threw some other ideas into my head about how I could use Mote with changing colors, because with partner work, it's such a great idea. And again, and I could go over here and say partner, like I could put name and then I could say purple, name, blue. And then I know as a teacher which student was purple, which student was blue, or you could even maybe do this as a small group activity where all your students are on a collaborative slide. Every single student can edit this bingo board. They're all using their Motes. They're answering all these different questions. And I've got all these different colors on my bingo board. And I can see how my students might have answered these questions differently. That might really save some really valuable time in grading and giving feedback to your students. So right here, I've got another one, and let's go down to recolor. And I'm going to make this one that blue color. So I can see right here, 3 students answered this. And then again, I can see which students did that. Such a good idea. And thank you, Google and Mote, for allowing those recolors, because I think that will really help some of our students. They'll be able to answer some of these questions by using that Mote symbol in order to create that class community, or if they are working in small groups and they can go back and listen. I think that could be really cool for this like reading one that was created earlier, where they're listening to different stories, and it might interest them to want to read another book that they might not have thought about reading. So that could be really, really fun as well. Yeah, if you click this little plus sign, you have to go to Nadine's slide right here, and then the arrow next to it, there's all these fun bingo boards that she made for you, because she is the best, and I just love her and adore her. And if you don't follow her on Twitter, put your Twitter handle, Nadine, in the chat, because you are a must follow, because look at these designs. Like, she is so creative and she is so good. So make sure you follow Nadine, and her Twitter handle is on the slides. So if you go down here, it's in the slides, but make sure you put that in the chat, Nadine. Okay, so that is Mote Bingo and how to create it. So again, you could do circles, you could do squares, you could create your own board, whatever you're thinking about for your students. And so again, I can create these different boards. I can add my logo right here, which I need to I hate listening to myself. I need to get over that. But again, I love the collaboration idea, okay? If there were any questions, feel free to throw them in. I kind of missed them because I got distracted by the colors, which if you know anything about me, that usually happens. But the last step is the students play. So after you create, they play. And we kind of talked about that. And again, follow Nadine. And right here are all of her slides that she created. She's an amazing person on Twitter. Yeah.
Stephanie, that was absolutely brilliant. And there were lots of comments coming into the chat, but actually, I think you did a really good job of trying to stay on top of those. Anyway, I know you're a pro with using StreamYard and YouTube, etc. But most of those comments that you would have seen, I'm sure that you wouldn't have wanted to say yourself, but they were all oohs and ahs and super awesome and loving your ideas, and that was really great as well that you're giving shout out as well to Nadine. I think you were saying, you mentioned her name a few times about just like helping out with some of the creative work with the bingo cards, and I think it was really, really good as well the way that the people tuning in were encouraged to be sharing their ideas. And I could think as well that it wouldn't necessarily just have to be like student to student. You could do some really interesting ways of finding out more about your students, and even finding out more about your new co-workers if they're new to your school community. So yeah, there's lots of awesome, and people just blown away by your that was such a great innovative session, Stephanie. So thank you so much for that. And please make sure, if you're not already following her on Twitter, that you follow through both her personal hashtag, and you've got your new. Would you like to say something about that, Stephanie?
Yeah, I can. And before I do, Stella put in the chat that perhaps we could use avatars. So like students could add their photos as the Mote icon, and that can make your grading a lot faster. So I love that idea. That's a really good idea, Stella. Okay, back to me. So yeah, feel free to follow me on Twitter. And then I also just started an LLC, but we do give a lot away for free. So if you are interested, you can go over to YouTube. It's kind of over our house, and I'll put the link in the chat, or well, I won't really, but somebody else will. And then if you go to Gold, you can subscribe. And there's all these fun resources where we're always just sharing ideas and different things that we can use in the classroom. And so like yesterday, we just did a session on creating a hub just to help organize your life, using paper slides in the classroom, talking about data notebooks. And so feel free to use these resources. I just enjoy sharing. So if you have anything that you want, feel free to DM me, and I'm happy to connect.
Thank you, Stephanie. Do you need your screen to be displayed anymore? Am I all right just to pull that off?
You're good. You can take it off.
Awesome. Thank you. So I'm just going to share something underneath just as a little ticker here. So we know that lots of people, when they come to webinars and conferences, like to have certificates. If you would like a certificate for the sessions that you have attended, so for example, the one that you've just enjoyed with Stephanie, if you head over to the link that's just down there, bit.ly/MoteConcert, or it's actually MoteCon certificate, but MoteConcert works. You can go over there, choose a session that you went to, and then automatically you'll have a certificate sent straight into your inbox. And yeah, we also mentioned at the start that Stephanie is a Mote ambassador. If you would like to become a Mote ambassador, just go over to mote.com and look at our community pages. It's just /community. At the moment, we are looking for people to let us know if they're interested in becoming a Mote ambassador. And then about a month or so, we'll be opening applications and then looking to welcome our new cohort at some point in October. So really excited to see the next crop of wonderful ambassadors. But Stephanie, that was a great session. I am going back to the comments and seeing if there are any questions, but I think you covered everything so comprehensively. So yeah, that was a wonderful session. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us at this inaugural MoteCon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm sure you'll be glued to your monitor tomorrow as we go through day 2 of MoteCon as well. So we'll be looking out for you in the comments. But until then, thank you for joining us, and take care, Stephanie. Okay, so we have about 4 or 5 minutes until our next session, which is going to be with one of my colleagues at Mote. So just before the last session kicks off, you've got that bit of time to stretch your legs, to go grab a cup of coffee, and I will see you back here in 5 minutes. Thanks, everyone. Hello again, and welcome back for the 6th session. So session number 6 of day 1 of MoteCon 2021. This is going to be a wonderful session. I don't want to give out any spoilers, but I will introduce the person that's going to join me as someone who is a fantastically celebrated Google certified trainer, been an EdTech trainer for over 10 years, keynote speaker, and unbelievably, I'm not sure if anyone counted, but delivered over 300 virtual workshops in 2020. She's also the founder of Leading Edge Learning, and she is a super fun, energetic, and brilliant colleague at Mote, and that is Sue Tranchina. Hi, Sue. How are you?
I'm doing great, especially after that introduction. Thank you, John. That was so
Of
kind.
course.
Yes,
Of course.
I'm so excited for MoteCon today. If you follow me on Twitter, then you definitely know how excited I am. I'm generally excited about most things in life, but particularly MoteCon today and tomorrow, of course.
Yeah, fantastic. And Sue, you're going to be sharing something which I know is close to both of our hearts today, and that is about how educators joining us can actually really help to empower their students with their voice and using the wonderful tool of Mote. So if you wouldn't mind, is your screen set up and ready for me to share?
As long as I move StreamYard over to the second monitor, then yeah, we're good to go.
There we go. So what I'll do, Sue, is I'll share your screen and then I will slip away. But I will kind of, I'll try not to rudely interrupt, but I may interrupt if there are any particularly necessary questions to do so. But I'd imagine I'll see you back here in 15, 20 minutes to maybe field some of those questions. But until then, it's over to you, Sue, and thank you very much in advance.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Hi. I hope that this is a great way to kick off your weekend by ending it with me and finding out how you can use Mote with your students and for your students, but better yet, how you can put Mote into the hands of your students as well for amazing content creation. From our first speaker, Mario, well, I guess Will was our first speaker, but all the way down through Mario, and Stephanie was just amazing. Just so many ways that we can empower our students. And I think that this is a really great workshop to end with, because I'm going to go over there'll be a lot of opportunities for screenshotting, I would say, or screen grabbing, if you will. So get those buttons ready if you're watching on your mobile device. Or go ahead with your screenshot if you are watching on your computer. But this is going to be a great opportunity for anyone who's either a new user of Mote to explore the ways that you can actually utilize the tools in order to empower your students. Maybe some things that you didn't even know existed, such as translation and transcription, but also some little tiny project ideas. I could go on for hours and hours with project ideas. Many of which are in our Learning Hub now at learn.mote.com. And you'll see a couple more of my videos, but also Greg and Eleni and so many of our Mote ambassadors' videos are there as well. So as we do a deep dive into Mote for students, let's do this. Here is our slide deck. If you don't want to screenshot and you just want to grab the slides, you can feel free to do so at bit.ly/21MC Sue. Make sure you use those caps locks on the MC and the S there. If you want to introduce yourself in the chat, you can feel free to do so. And if I don't see it, John will pop on in and let me know. But let's dive in. Big agenda here. I probably won't make it through all of this, but I am going to be touching on a lot of this content. We had a particularly wild year, I guess to say the least, last year. I think all educators will agree that it was quite possibly the most exhausting year of many of our careers. And so that's when I discovered Mote as an educator. So I am from New Jersey in the United States. I am now an education advocate for Mote, which I'm really excited about, creating a lot of content and also sharing Mote with all new users. So whether this is going to be a school district that just signed up for Unlimited, whether this is going to be aiding students and parents and guardians, I'm really excited to do this. Because I used Mote in my own classroom and I watched my students be really present when I gave them feedback. I actually used it a little differently than I think anyone has said so far, where when we went back to face-to-face, I would actually still record my face-to-face feedback in their videos. In my instance, I was a video production teacher, as well as business technology. So if it was a textual analysis, I would actually hit record while I was giving the student in-person feedback as well. And the students loved it. They loved hearing the feedback. They loved growing from the feedback. They loved being able to come back and listen to the feedback in order to have it stay really recent in their minds so that then they could immediately grow from it. That was where I kind of fell in love with Mote. I was watching my students actually listen to me instead of taking notes when I was giving them feedback. And I think that as a high school teacher, or if anyone is a professor in higher ed, you could really relate to that. I'm sure middle school teachers, of course, too, but can really relate to the fact that our students will sometimes kind of, just start to go off into la la land when you're speaking to them. Or they'll kind of just start writing and not listening. And that this was a really great way that I started using Mote. And then it just started to catch on, where I was then leaving audio comments for feedback in classroom. And then Mote for slides was introduced. And that's where things really took off for me, as I'm sure many of the other trainers out there, or of course the other educators out there. So I'm going to go over some of the ways that I use Mote for students in a much more organized fashion than I may have just started rambling out on. But we're going to start off with Mote for students, ? Where I will share our Mote privacy policy. In talking with district leaders, everyone is just raving about how secure Mote is and how easy it is to get it introduced into the school because of the privacy policies. And we'll talk a little bit about the different features, whether they're unlimited or free. So what do you get when your school signs up for unlimited? One of the newest upgrades to the unlimited feature is that all of your students will get Mote as well. So they can actually do a lot of this content creation in addition to, your 90-second recording time and translations and transcriptions. And then I'm very excited. I think that the purpose of this whole presentation is to launch the Mote for Students YouTube series. We worked really, really hard on this. It's a 5-part series, I think soon to be 6-part series. It's a playlist on YouTube so that you as an educator don't have to teach your students the tool Mote. You can share these videos so that your students can learn Mote, and you can teach them what you're supposed to teach them, which is where your expertise lies. So it's hard, I think, now that we're leaning on so many digital tools. You have to constantly feel the need to become a master of these tools before you share them with your students. And that was really the purpose of us creating these videos for the Mote for Students YouTube series. Okay, so the long list of Mote for students, and like I said, this could go on for hours. John, you're going to have to what were those old black and white films where they would throw in the cane and kind of start to reel someone off stage. So you're going to have to rip me off stage, I'm sure, at the end of this, but I promise I won't get into too much of the way of your weekend. But Mote for students, we're going to start off with Mote for feedback. And Greg did such an awesome presentation on the different types of feedback, particularly effective feedback. And because we're all in different learning environments, now, and our students in particular are in different learning environments, whether you are in person or you're remote or hybrid, wherever you might be, Mote is just first and foremost, the reason why many of us fell in love with Mote is because of its ability to provide personalized and effective feedback without having to sacrifice any more of our time than we already give. Then we'll go into Google Classroom, and I'm going to show you an example of how I used Mote in Google Classroom for discussion posts on my stream, and then forms, responses, reactions, and then SEL checks. I heard Stephanie just before mention the importance of SEL moving forward, particularly on this upcoming school year. And I know that forms can sometimes feel a little bland and boring, but as educators, we use them all of the time. So Mote can really level up that experience and really help you connect with your students by when you say, in your own words, explain X, Y, and Z, they can actually use their own words and their own voice. Mote for accessibility or as an accessibility tool, Mote and slides, creation in the classroom. So there's a lot that we can do with slides. You guys just saw so many different examples of it. And I might spend just a little bit of time there and skip right on into amplifying student voice through project-based learning and voice and student choice. So I'm a huge advocate and a huge enthusiast for project-based learning, student voice, and student choice. Just a personal example of mine, I was never that great of a learner because I didn't realize that I was a visual learner. And so I didn't really excel when I was a student until I had an opportunity in one of my classes when my teachers was like, hey, you're good at making videos. Why don't you just make a video instead? And had no idea that that's actually, that was student choice in its very early years. So I have a cool little simple choice board to share with you and to show you the role that Mote can play in helping you create student choice boards for your students. Okay, and if there's time, we'll get to the Learning Hub and the Mote CE, Mote certification. I think Will kind of coined it as becoming Mote certified instead of certified, because I'm a huge enthusiast over the Certified Educator Program. We've run boot camps, and if you don't know about it, you can go to mote.com/community to learn about it. And if there's any time at all, Q&A, we'll do a happy hour Q&A, I think. So if that sounds good for anyone else. But as I mentioned, I did want to start off with the what is Mote. I think that we are all very aware of what Mote is, but I want to show you this. This is a really, really big solid feature. And I know that Will spoke to this in the first presentation of our day today, but having compliance with all of the things that keep our children safe is really, so whether this is FERPA, COPA, the GDPR, and now the Australian Privacy Act, or I guess we probably always had that. But this is an area where so many school leaders will ask me about in order, if a really big Mote enthusiast goes back to their school leaders and says, hey, Mote is a great tool, X, Y, and Z. Here's all of the information that you can share with your school leaders. And it really is a wonderful privacy policy in effort to keep our students safe and keep their content and their data safe as well. And yours too. And then I have on here on the slides, if we go along the bottom, that it's fast, it's friendly, and it's free. But then I also wanted to speak just a little bit to our full features down here. A lot of people will ask as I start diving into the presentation, is this an unlimited feature or is this, a free feature, a basic feature? So that's what I want to kind of speak a little bit to when I start to talk about the accessibility tools, especially, because we're going to talk a little bit about translation and transcription, and those are unlimited features. So in order to have those 90 seconds of recording time and the transcripts and the translations, you will need those upgraded features. So, and if you have any questions about any of that, you guys can feel free to reach out to me or anyone else on our Mote team. Okay, so going through our list, and hopefully these slides are in the right order. Excuse me. This is our Mote student video series that we are really excited about launching. I think that the sixth video, spoiler alert, is going to be on our new reply feature. This is something that students are really starting to interact with and engage with, where teachers can leave them Mote audio notes, and then they can now reply to those comments. And students are really starting to enjoy that. And the replies that we're getting are like, thank you, have a great weekend. They're really enjoyable. So I think for teacher emotional, socio-emotional, so teacher SEL, if we want to call it that. I think that for our own sanity, but also for our love of our career and our profession, sometimes it's nice to hear those little messages from your students. So we're going to add another video, I think, for reply coming soon. But these are the first 5 videos of the student video series. All of the videos are designed to be directly engaging the audience, which would be the students, or for our younger students, their parents and guardians or family members that will be assisting them. And everything from installing to commenting, using slides for creation forms, Notepad and sticky Motes. The reason why we wanted to put this together, as I mentioned earlier, is because so many educators are asked to learn these new technology tools, and we all have to then reinvent the wheel. We have to become masters of these new tech tools. And with Mote, it's our goal to increase productivity and save you time, increase personalized feedback, and increase the opportunities for student voice. But we're not trying to put more on your plate. So in order to help you with that, you don't have to make a student video series for your students. You don't have to teach it to them. They can watch these videos. You can see that the longest one is a little long, but everything is under 5 minutes. Most of them are around 3 or under, so that your students can learn how to use Mote asynchronously, and then you don't have to take time away from your class and away from your own learning objectives. You can just have the students learn with the video series. So go ahead and check that out. That's over on our YouTube channel. The link, this is a clickable link within the slides too, if you did get the slides. So going through our list and our agenda and starting with feedback, Mote, and docs, I think that this is kind of the place where a lot of people begin their Mote journey. And I'm sure that someone will come up with something clever for Mote journey over in the chat, because I'm not always that spunky when it comes to putting Mote into our words. The Mote journey. Come on, somebody help me out here. But feedback, Mote with docs. Of course, you can also leave your feedback in slides as well as in sheets. We now have Mote for Gmail if you wanted to send out messages. I'm not going to go through the sample of this because I think that this was done a couple times so far today. I thought that we had some recommendations. Okay, for the idea for Mote Journey, but you can see here that this is just a little GIF or GIF showing you how to create this the feedback with Mote. And again, Greg had such a great presentation earlier talking about the way to deliver and strategies for delivering effective feedback, the different types of feedback to deliver. And this is just a really great place to kind of start your Mote journey, which is leaving feedback in your docs. When we do a dive into a sample in Google Classroom, I'll be demonstrating it once again. Okay, and then Google Classroom. So Google Classroom is kind of where I think educators started to fall in love. As Will mentioned, this came right after Google Docs when the educators started using it and were like, hey, there's commenting in Classroom. Can we get a Mote feature here as well? Now, there's a couple different ways to use Mote in Google Classroom, whether this is going to be on your stream or in assignments to explain to your students what project requirements are, what your expectations are, learning outcomes, and so on. But I like to empower our students with discussion posts. I'm a brave teacher. Yes, I do give my stream to my students. This is something that was new for me last year, and I loved it. It was very similar to me as an educator, as my experiences were taking a graduate level course. And I think that if we're preparing students for the future, this is a good opportunity to get them discussing things with one another. But we were using the stream, and typing our discussions. But then when the students had Mote installed, they were able to actually leave discussion and comments about whatever our learning outcome was. I'm going to show you an example. I think it was an opening montage of a documentary is one of my examples. But then the students were able to listen to each other's comments and then reply to their classmates' comments with Mote as well. So you kind of have that asynchronous discussion happening with your actual voice. And what I found was that students who normally wouldn't type anything, they were fine with recording. They would do more work because they just had to hit a button and record their voice really quick, and then boom, it was done. They didn't have to overthink it, especially students who aren't feeling very comfortable or confident with their grammar or their spelling. We didn't have to worry. That's one of our Mote minutes. But those students didn't have to stress out too much about everybody having eyes on their grammar, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to pull this in right now, just to show you an example. This is a this is a teacher demo page. I like to keep my teacher page up here in yellow. And this is an example of how I used Mote for discussion posts in Google Classroom. And right here, you can see that I've linked a YouTube video, and I have no words. There's no words. So what I did here was I just clicked, and then I used Mote to record my directions for my students.
Hey guys, I'd like you to watch this video for homework and then come into class and be prepared to elaborate on the discussion for the opening montage on this video. I'd like each of you to comment on this post as a discussion post, what you thought of that opening montage, how it made you feel, and then review your classmates' responses and respond to at least 2 of them.
Okay, so I won't make you listen to every single Mote that I recorded throughout all of this. However, I do want to show you that as we dive into accessibility features, because I have Mote Premium, you can see here that I automatically have my transcription that will show for my students. This is one of our accessibility features right here. So this is just my content that I'm sharing out with my students and how they would all be able to see what I left here for them. And then they can either read this or they can listen to what I said. They can go ahead and watch this amazing Billy Kemper documentary. If anybody is interested in big wave surfing, it's on YouTube. It's incredible. It's a 6-part series. And then a student can hit this Mote button if they have Mote installed, and then they can reply, what their takeaway was on that opening montage. They can listen to their classmates' comments, and then they can reply on back to them, which is pretty great. I'm going to scroll on down here where you can see that we have a couple class comments. I like turtles. This was a funny one. But this was an example of using sticky notes with Google Classroom over here on the stream, where I could just go to any web page with sticky notes. I'm jumping ahead of myself here and click here, which would bring me to sea turtles. So sea turtles with sticky notes. And this was using our share to classroom feature now involving sticky notes. I probably have some time to elaborate on this if I'd like to, but here you can see that I actually just came up here and I clicked on the M, clicked on record a Mote voice note, and then I was able to prompt my students in what I wanted from them to read this article and then do what? They can listen to my directions here.
Hey guys, we're going to be reading this article about siege.
And then they can hit the X button and it'll stick itself to the side. They can read the article. And it's really, really simple way for you to be able to share this public content with your students directly in Google Classroom. And just to show that, since we're still in Classroom and heading on into my activity and engagement right here, you can see that if I come down here, one of these is them, but I have a share to classroom button. So after I create, just hit the M button on the web page and then record it, I can hit the share to classroom button and then that will forward itself right on over there, which is really incredible. All right, I'm going to move this on over and head on off of our discussion posts because we have a lot more to do. I want to get into audio responses and reflections. This is going to be with Google Forms. This is a really big part of this, I think, for the upcoming year is going to be being very aware of SEL checks and making sure that we're checking on our students constantly. The assessing and addressing the needs of our students for this upcoming year can be done with a Google form, and it can feel personal with Mote, in my opinion. And I hope that you will agree. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually pull in this SEL check form that I just created, and I shared this on over in Google Classroom just to show you what this looks like. Now, again, hitting on that accessibility feature, which is going to come next, I created this form. This is in my teacher creation mode to share out with my students. How are you feeling today with emojis? And then if you're willing to share in your own words, let me know why you feel this way. Please use a Mote audio note for this. We can also chat one-on-one if you'd like. Now, on this question right here, if I'd like to, for students maybe that can't read, or for students that have any type of a visual impairment, I can actually record what I'm saying. So this is actually going to be built in whether you have premium or you do not. So if I were to click here, how are you feeling today? Choose one of the emojis below and then hit done. And you'll see that my Mote will attach right here, which is pretty great. Normally I'll go into student mode, but to save us on a little bit of time right now, I want to show you what this looks like when a student were to submit this. So again, putting this into the hands of our students, they can type in their email, their name. How are you feeling today? They can listen to it.
How are you feeling today? Choose one of the emojis.
Okay. And maybe I am feeling thumbs down. And if I'm willing to share, I can say, oh, well, I'm not feeling that well and someone in my house is sick, so we're all a little nervous, I want to bring down the weekend right now, but this is a true moment that can actually happen in class. And this is an opportunity for your students to kind of elaborate on how they're feeling and for you to be able to hear in their voice if they say, yeah, I'm okay, if they're actually okay. And then what I want to actually show you here is going to be on my responses. So as my responses come in here, and I'm the educator, and I have all of my students submitting for an SEL check, maybe as they're due now at the start of class, I can actually, because I have Mote installed, click in Forms and just hit play.
Oh, well, I'm not feeling.
To hear from my students, know exactly if I need to reach out. And also the emojis will help for me to be able to recognize right away, oh, maybe I should listen to this one, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's move this on over because I'm going to get into, here's our Mote accessibility where we have transcription and translation. This is a really amazing feature that I'm going to demo actually right here. The first thing that you would do is just simply check your extension to make sure that you, in settings and help, have voice transcription turned on and your speaking languages here. So this is a shout out to all of our world language teachers out there. If you're not speaking in English, or if you speak a different language in class with your students, you're going to choose your speaking language right here. Okay, and then you'll be able to choose what you would like to translate it into. Again, this is a premium feature. So I can highlight translation, add in my comment like I normally would. This is the Mote feature all about translation. Hitting done here, hitting my pencil here. Come on, make me that transcript. Okay, here's my transcript. And then all I'm going to do here is hit translate and maybe choose Spanish. This has been, number one, an amazing tool for world language teachers in the United States, English as a second language students here. So an accessibility feature for them. However, this has also been a really good way to communicate with parents and guardians, so that if I were to exit out of that after I save it and then hit comment, you'll not only see my Mote card here, but you'll also be able to see the translation. And if you do not have Mote installed, it will bring you to a Mote page where it will show you that the Mote card as well as the translation. So you can still hear this and you can still read this in whatever language you decided to translate it into. Okay, we are running out of time. I knew that Jon was going to have to jump in at any moment, so I'm going to head right into Mote with slides. We did a lot on Mote with slides so far today, but I'm going to share with you a couple of really helpful slides, and that is going to be starting with this one. This is going to be one of the ones where you might want to take a screenshot. If you'd like to change your Mote speaker icon, you're going to record your Mote like you normally would. This has been demoed a couple of times today. So you'd click up here on your Mote icon, then you would click to start. Okay, when you're done, you would click that you're done, hit the insert button, and then you get this purple icon with your Mote built in.
Hi everyone, in today's class we are...
Now to change this, you would right click or secondary click on it, 2-finger click on a Chromebook, and then you would replace that image. My favorite is with a selfie. Demo real quick. Oh no. All right, so for the sake of saving time, maybe I'll just do it over here really quickly. And there we go. We'll try it here. Clicking to start. Hey everyone, it's Sue. Listen here for some special announcements. And then hit the checkbox. We'll give that a second, hit that insert button. And just like we had on that infographic, it should create a purple speaker icon. Here it comes. And there it is. Now to replace this, you can right click on this. You can hit the replace image icon and you can choose selfie, which I like to say to my students, find a picture of Miss Tranchina and you know, to hear a special message or upload from the computer and so on and so forth. So to save time here, I also have a button or a slide all the way down here, which I'll pull up, on what can you turn your Mote into. And again, this is something that has been talked about a lot today. So it's a Bitmoji. Go ahead, you can laugh about it. But we did just create a video that's going to be shared over on the hub about GIFs and GIFs and how you can use those, replace your Mote icon as those. There's also this really nifty list. And if you'd like to submit them to me, please feel free to email me, bit.ly/MoteIcons, all lowercase. That has a bunch of different icons that I've created that you can use and replace your Mote speaker icon with. So I love this for question asking, but I had a physical education teacher ask me to make these for exercises, and we were able to do that too. Okay, so heading on into student voice, there's a lot of content on here when it comes to student voice. And I have one more slide I want to make sure I get to before we finish today. But how can you use Mote with your students? You know, a lot of these have been talked about today. Reflection and journaling is probably my favorite here. Flipping your classroom, having your students learn at their own pace. The parents can hear their children reading, which is sometimes really important for parent conferences, as well as to be able to communicate with parents their child's progress. Personalizing lessons and feedbacks and having the students being able to hear themselves. Here's a big long list about student voice and when it matters, whether you're in class or out of class. And I'm actually going to skip over this one because this is maybe I'll say for 1 second, this is a really good example of how you can utilize Google Slides and empowering student voice, where you can just use the same slide for a do now. You can even use this as a Jamboard if you wanted to. And then you can ask a series of questions and have students create audio notes explaining how and why they agree, disagree, strongly agree, or strongly disagree, and give them this Likert scale to be able to choose from. But this is the slide I'd like to get to here. Student choice projects. I've used Applied Digital Skills for the past several years, and this is a perfect example about how you as an educator can empower your students through student choice and being able to have a student determine which lesson they would like to showcase the knowledge that they've obtained in your classroom. And that's what I have here. So I have an example of 3 projects. You can have them choose 1 or 2, writing a press release, creating a meme with Google Drawings, and planning an event, and then a description on what your expectations are and how you want the students to be able to meet your learning outcomes by choosing this particular assignment. So they're understanding clearly what's expected of them. And you can even have another page that has them explain in their own words why they chose that project right there.
Should you choose this project, your assignment will be to write a press release for something that happened in film history.
Okay. And here's my sample. Find a picture of Miss Tranchina is right there. And I'm all done. So if you are interested in becoming a Mote certified educator, you can reach out to me either on Twitter or at sue@mote.com via email, or anyone on our team, or just simply go to mote.com/community. It's real simple certification. And yeah, that's it. I think that, John, didn't you say we were over 1,250 Mote certified educators?
I think we're actually close to 1,300 now.
Oh my goodness!
There's been a massive surge in the popularity of Mote certified educator, and in fact, it's been over the past couple of months. So that's been great, and I know you've been a real champion of that, Sue. But I think most importantly, I just want to say thank you so much because I know that was a lot to really pack into a 30-minute session there. But as always, you've come very well prepared with a great slide deck. So we will make sure, even for those people that might be joining us after the event, we will make sure that the link to the resources that Sue has been sharing and creating will be very easily accessible to you. We will definitely put them into the description below, but we'll make sure that they also live somewhere else. So just to maximize the way that you're able to utilize some of those great ideas that were being shared. I did just notice a really interesting question came in from one of our viewers today, Christina, was saying about how, so when you switched the picture, could it stay permanently as that? Now, I think that's quite a good idea. But currently, Sue, that isn't possible, is it?
I don't. I'm not.
What she's asking, so she was basically asking is, can you make a one-time change to how your speaker icon looks within Google Slides?
Oh, so like set a default to that. That's
the answer, and I actually see that Will has chipped in there. So Will being the CEO, so he does know his stuff when it comes to Mote. That you can't actually set it to do that. But that is nevertheless, I think that's a good idea. One thing I do is so if I want to change it to my Bitmoji, which I very rarely do actually, because I've got a very embarrassing one. But if you did want to do that, and a similar way to me, if you put it in a particular folder or particular place that you know that if you click onto, like you want to get your picture in through Drive, or even a nice profile picture of yourself, you would be able to do it that way. And of course, your students can do just the same. But yeah, Sue, lots of super positive comments, very informative, very appreciative of all the efforts that you've put in there. So that was it. So we have wrapped up.
I was gonna demonstrate. I didn't know if she wanted clarification on how to do it, but
your demonstration was crystal clear. So
perfect.
No, I think it's been a great first 6 sessions. So 3.5 hours ago, there had never been a session of MoteCon ever, and now we have gone through day 1, and we are 6 sessions, 6 wonderful sessions down, and we have 6 more wonderful sessions tomorrow, ranging from everything about how you might look to use Mote in the music classroom. We've got a fantastic session to kick things off with Sarah Kiefer's doing something with Mote for little learners. So for those students who might be in the elementary classroom, and we've got some other really nice ones coming up. So I know there's some ambassadors as well joining us to share language classroom, their wins that they've really enjoyed in the past few months. So really excited for that. But all that leaves me to say is just to give you a very, very warm thank you, Sue. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your Friday, and I will see you, because we are actually closing MoteCon with
we are, yes, disappointed that there's no Bon Jovi, but yeah,
the official closing ceremony. There is a John, but sadly it doesn't finish with
I mean, I live
Bon
in New
Jovi.
Jersey. He's probably not far from me, so
Who knows? He's probably been tuning in. All right,
sure.
then.
Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
Sue. Okay, well, thank you to Sue, and thank you to everyone else, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And until then, bye.
Bye.